think I'm live. I hope so. There we go. Ahoy hoy! I am Planarwalk. And welcome to an update of how Flerfia is going. So let me switch over to everything so that... And let me switch my audio, the desktop audio back on. Hey, if you want to come join me, I'm on Discord, and you can come and ask me particular questions about how the game's going and what's planned for it. So, first off, I suppose I should read super chats if you want. I've actually got a Streamlabs set up, but when it comes to the Streamlabs, it's not quite connected to right here in OBS. It's not connected to this profile in OBS. I've got a couple of different profiles. One's for streaming on Twitch. Hey, if you want to hang out with me sometime, you can come watch me on Twitch. I sometimes stream. It's twitch.tv/Planarwalk. So the Snark seems to be alright. So the Snark donated... God damn it. So the Snark donated €2 saying... Having fun already, and I'm glad you're having fun already, the Snark. And so I've also got Patreon if you want to support me there, up to $194 per month. Every little bit helps. So let me just bring up Flerfia here. Here we go. So this version of the game has... So, I can't remember what was in the last version that I showed you. I don't think it had quite as much as this version. I think this version has a whole lot more. And you can actually download this for yourself and play through. That's why I'm not going to show you the whole thing, because otherwise there'd be no use in playing it, and I wouldn't be able to get feedback. And I probably will want to turn down the volume because it has music. Pretty nice music. Almost muted myself there. Okay. Open volume mixer. 1 second here, and we're going to just... Okay, this should be good. Alright. And it's also fully compatible with controllers. So, yeah, it has swoopy chemtrails and stuff, so now you can choose whatever name you want. You can choose, I'm just going to name myself Planar. I believe there's enough characters for Planarwalk. It doesn't really make a difference what you name yourself, and it has a whole lot of names that it gives you automatically if you don't want to take the time to name yourself. You can also use the keyboard to type, so that's pretty cool, in case you didn't know that. Oh, one thing that I added is, so I have actually been getting a whole lot of feedback from this game from some people, and one of the things of feedback that I got was having tutorials. So if you want, you can actually have the tutorials come up. I don't really need them myself, so I'm gonna hit no. And let me know how the volume leveling is. I think that it might be a little bit too high. No, the username Planarwalk doesn't give you special abilities. It gives you the same abilities that you'd normally have. I might have a few names that give you special stuff. Maybe there's some already. Who knows? So, I do need to have a little bit of a thing here that shows who's speaking. But that's something for future stuff. I don't know if I had this in the last time you would have seen it, so this could be something new to everyone. I'm under the curve. Oh yeah, there is an alien called Belu. So I'm pretty sure I had smashing stuff in the last version. Pretty sure that was just implemented. Oh yeah, I heard about that. You know, Donald Trump's trying to buy Greenland or something. I do like the music, by the way. Especially the battle music. I don't hear enough of that when testing. And that's another thing that I had suggested to me. So some of the suggestions that I'll point out was when you go to open a chest, have a button prompt to prompt you to open up a chest. I think it's actually could be a strategic move to buy Greenland, but because of global warming. So Trump buying Greenland and not believing in global warming just doesn't really make sense to me. So yeah, this is, I have added in, oh yes, I did, so this game is, so it's mostly made by me. So assets, I've got Sammy in the call who made some of the assets. Do you want to say hi?
Hi.
So she helped with colouring in these, the sprites that you see that are jumping around, and for some reason, there we go. There's some assets that I did, like the spikes, the chest. That's why they look shitty. But you attack to the left. I mean, you can attack. It's going to be part of a master plan combo. So what flat earther would I like to debate? Good question. I'd actually probably like to debate Mark Sargent. That'd be a cool debate. But one person I'd probably like to debate about flat Earth, right? Just to show that people can argue against flat Earth, or just to show that I'm an intellectual powerhouse. Would be Destiny, because I saw a debate with him with a globe earther, right? And he's not a flat earther. At least I don't think that he's a flat earther. And Destiny absolutely demolished this guy. You know?
What was the argument about?
It was about flat earth.
So they're both globe earthers, but one argued for flat earth?
Yep.
Why?
I think it's probably to show people that it's actually pretty difficult to debate these kinds of things. Okay. So yeah, this is a... Yeah! Ow! Ow! Whew! Yeah, so it's... Oh yeah, I just realized something. Those things up there should actually be a pixel up. I should fix that. So this is where I'm probably going to... Oh, and you can buy potions as well. For the low price of $29.99. Isn't that cheap? So yeah, we even got your stats and everything, so... Oh, that's right. I forgot to put instructions down here on how to navigate the menus. Because the menus you can navigate, right? But I haven't, I needed instructions. What did we do before Nintendo? I don't know what you did before Nintendo. So yeah, if you want to download this and have a go at it and give me feedback, you can go to my Discord link is in the description. I'll actually post it in the chat, and you can actually download this game, the current version, and there are a few things wrong with it. I wouldn't say glitches. There's one glitch which I don't know how to actually cause, which makes it very hard to fix. I thank you, Geekcraft Studios. $2, he says, keep up the good work. I will do. So yeah, here's the link to the Discord. So as I said, there are a few, I don't know if I said it, but there are a few rooms which I'm not going to show you. And that's actually a bit of a bug, but So this one here, I'm not going to go into. This is a difficult one, all right? There's another one. No. Yeah, I can't afford it. What are your Windows 7 or above is pretty important system requirement. It's not a very expensive game to run. Who's the big bad boss in the game? So currently the big bad boss would have to be they. So this area here that you're in, to start off with the game, is actually a trial to make sure you're ready. Because I tend to make pretty difficult games, so I've amped up the amount of tutorials in this game just so that people can really get a feel for the game. It explains everything in as much detail as I can. Also, this way here, you can't get up there unless you go the other way, so yeah. And it's pretty difficult. So that's a bit of help for everyone playing. But it's, yeah, there's not very high system requirements. I mean, I've been developing this on a computer with a i5 processor, barely any graphics. And, it's been working out fine for me, so. Should work out fine for everyone else. Win 1898 SE. I don't actually know the earliest. I don't think it will run on Windows XP. That's the one thing I can probably say with a decent amount of certainty. It probably won't run on Windows XP. Yeah, and as I said, another place I'm not going to show you too much of, I'm just going to enter it and leave, is an area down here. As I said, there are some pretty difficult areas in this. So yeah. And as you can see, there's chemtrails in this game that I implemented. So I have actually gotten, so I'll go through a few of the things that it does far better than Unescapable. So, because Unescapable, in case you didn't know, is the other game that I've made. It feels a lot better than Unescapable. If you play, I've played Unescapable right after this, and the feel of Unescapable was just so, it felt so slow. In this game, you're moving a lot faster, and some people might say motion sickness, but I don't think you get motion sickness from a 2D game. It's also, when you take damage, it actually feels like you're taking damage as well. Doesn't feel like... So Unescapable, one of the problems that it had was when you take damage, it felt like you were you're basically a sponge for damage. Oh, hey, Charisma, how's it going? Whereas in this game, it's much... in this game, damage actually... I just took damage there, and it pushed me back. So yeah, damage will actually be felt in terms of... okay, I don't have vibrations. But, I don't think I need vibrations to show it, do I? Ouch. Yo, I can afford a potion, can't I? No! No! I can't afford a potion. God damn it.
Nice sunglasses, Chris.
Oh. And hello, Ancito Maldonado Jr. So, and as I keep saying, you can actually download this game for yourself. I just need to get $3 more and I can buy a potion. I should be level 2, I think. So yeah, this game does have quite a bit of difficulty in it. That's one thing that you'll probably notice. And so yeah, there are kind of like a lot of games, you can keep on grinding if you want to get infinite potions. But unlike some games, if you grind, you might actually end up losing a whole lot more. Ouch. You might actually lose a whole lot more HP than you gain. So, items. Use. Potion. So if anybody has any questions about this, feel free to ask them. Because this has been something that I've been working on for quite a while. Hello, Chris Gilroy. How's it going? So, and it may take a while to complete it. It's not... I'll actually just pause it. So, it's not quite as big as my other... It's not quite as big in terms... So, this is Flerfia. This is a game that I have designed. So, I've designed it with the help of a couple of people. Obviously, I can't make all the assets for this game myself, but the programming is 100% done by me. I am getting someone to help with working out some calculations. AB Science has been helping out with that a little bit, to work out calculations for how damage is dealt. But that should be... pretty simple. Because he knows more about calculations, although... he did come up with one calculation. There was a little bit of a problem with it, and that's the problem that it didn't account for level scaling. As in, if you got more HP, it would take a lot longer for something to kill you, and if you went up against something that had a lot more HP, it would take a lot longer to kill it if you were the same level. So, that's one issue that I had, but we're working through it.
That, and also I need to work on the assets, and I don't want to right now. I feel like a jerk because I've been procrastinating on this for a long time now.
Mm.
I feel like a jerk, and I feel like garbage, and
Well, it's been hard to get assets because seeing as I am probably the most dedicated person to this project out of everyone, because you got to be dedicated to your own project. But because of that, it's become one of them things where I'm doing most of the work, and I'm not going to complain about that because I've got to do a lot of work to actually get this done. It's kind of like if I were to complain about me doing all the work for my YouTube videos. I'm not going to complain about that, but it's nice to have a bit of help. But and MCToon said, a flat world game? Yes, it is actually a game to do with Flat Earth. So it's a game. I don't know if any Flares are coming in to say hi. You're more than welcome to. If they want, I'm mostly talking about my game. And as I said, if you've got any questions about this game, feel free to ask me, and I'll tell you about it. I had a nice chat with. I think the last time I was talking about this, I had a nice chat with Flat Out Hero, and we had a chat that wasn't too much about Flat Earth.
Who's Nathan Oakley?
Nathan Oakley.
And why does he need guitars?
Oh, so real quick, that's my random generator. So it just comes up with random quotes that I've put in there, and sometimes it will actually create its own random quotes.
Oh.
But some people are asking a few questions. Have you programmed in an ice wall? Not yet. There is going to be an ice wall though. Because why wouldn't there be? I just realised something. I'm just going to place that down. So, who's the final boss? That's a good question. So it's actually not going. So I'm going to try and avoid. I'm going to try and avoid using people without their permission in the game. There are going to be a few flat earthers, notably Flat Out. Flat Out will be a flat earther that appears in the game. Obviously, why wouldn't he? There's also going to be. I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to get Feck You to be a part of the game. And there's also going to be... Who else are we going to have? We're going to have Mick Flatty. I managed to convince him somehow. I need to convince Flat Earth Aussie Jesus to be a part of the game, and I'll actually make him a playable character. But, I'll probably just have a character that's similar but not quite. That's, a combination of characters. That one of them is taking inspiration from Ross Thatcher, or Flat Earth Aussie Jesus, as he's also known. There will be a whole lot of globe earthers though. For example, I will be a character in the game. Simon Dan will be a character in the game. Conspiracy Cats will be a character in the game. I believe I've gotten permission from Soundly. Yeah, I don't know if Team Skeptic is actually going to be able to make it, but if he comes on, I'll definitely ask him if he wants to be a character in the game. But yeah, as for Dell being in the game, people have it right. No. Well, actually, when the Kickstarter comes out, I'm going to have a few reward tiers that allow you to put your own, basically have your own self-insert character. and yeah, that will be one thing that you'll be able to do. There'll be a whole lot of different reward tiers. The highest one will allow you to basically completely design your own dungeon, and that'll basically be as many floors as you like, and it'll be canonical part of the game, and we'll have side quests around it. So yeah. Unfortunately, we probably won't be able to create new assets for that dungeon, but maybe we might be able to create a few new things that are unique to that particular dungeon. I am hoping to make this game a proper... So, I'm hoping to have a few chapters of this game, and I'm hoping each chapter will be a good 5 hours at least. So that'll be 5 hours. Actually, if you were to speedrun it, maybe 2 hours, right? Because I do understand that some people take their time when playing games and prefer to just read the dialogue, and that might take 5 hours. But if you're speedrunning it, then maybe 2 hours, maybe 2.5. Character that speaks in only ASCII. But the important... Shit, I think my brain stopped working. I've actually been working on this all night. As I said, you can actually download this right now for yourself if you want. Play through it, let me know what you think. And yeah, there'll be all kinds of jokes that we're going to have. There's actually a character that we're planning on having in. So I know who the second playable character is going to be. So the first playable character is whatever you name your character. It's your very own character. The second playable character will be a character called Dusty. And, you'll be able to... and that will be a conspiracy theorist who... has figured out that the Earth is flat and all that kind of jazz, right? And he's a doomsday prepper and all kinds of that. And yeah, Charisma has worked out who it's based on. He's got his own cult, and it's old and irrelevant now. And apparently, people are accusing him of being just having the thing for money, even though it's old and irrelevant. It's 8:30 in New Zealand now. Yes, I have been up all night. All night I've been working on this, right? So I should probably go ahead and list out a few advantages that it has over Unescapable. So let me go. Word, no, not Word. WordPad will do. So, advantages. Quicker. Ah, shit, this is really small. I'm actually just going to get in a battle real quick so that I can show some really nice music. Because I really like the battle music. I didn't come up with the battle music. Dean Weiss did. There we go. I do know what sleep is. But I also know what determination is. I also know what energy drink is. So, yeah, so advantages of Flerfia. So, quicker player movement. That's advantage number one. Advantage number two would be better music. I mean, I do like the overworld music, but of Unescapable. But Flerfia, I think in general has better music. It has its very own battle themes and all that kind of stuff. I think consistent UI. I think I might have spelt consistent wrong, but it's not giving me an error. Actually, in neither game there isn't bad load times. It's a 5 megabyte game, so why would there be load times in a 5 meg? I'm actually thinking of, how would I implement that? It'd be interesting. And hello, Demon Orb Heathen. Need some banjo, maybe. What else is better? So, there's a few things. So what's it coded in? It's done in Game Maker Studio. People are saying more cowbell. So, also, it's got better flow. So, better game flow. And some of these might be only opinion. So I think it's got a better game flow than Unescapable. Some people might prefer Unescapable. I think there's NASA in the game. I probably actually won't have NASA itself. There will be the OSI, the Office of Strategic Influence. And megabytes, kilobytes. I mean, megabytes to kilobytes isn't quite as easy as kilometers, meters to kilometers. Daleks. So what else do we have? Here's a big thing. Destructible objects. That's a big thing. Consistent, not consistent. I was hoping spell check would pick that up, but I guess I don't have good spell check. So destructible objects, that's another big thing, because you'd be able to... so destructible objects, you'll be able to, find a barrel and destroy it. It doesn't matter, just so long as it's consistent. Yeah. I feel like there's more, but I can't remember it right now. Oh. So the item system, I don't know if this is better or worse, but item system is just one thing. So all your items are found in one place. And you can actually, if you were to get a sword, for example, yes, this is Video Games 1 Minute Debunk. And also, if you want to join the stream and ask me questions, you're more than welcome to come in. It's on my Discord server.
I just made someone rage quit in Magic the Gathering.
Oh, nice. That always happens with me. So, all your items are organized under one place, which is unlike what I had. In Unescapable, what I had was objects. So they're like 10 objects. Wait, shit. As I said, I haven't gotten any sleep last night, as I'm really determined to this project. I'm hoping that we can get the Kickstarter out. So currently, and as I said, my mind's all over the place, because I haven't got much sleep. I'll probably be actually spending a bit of time updating the current bugs that are in the game that seem to have evaded my watch. So I think it's also better built. It's far better built. So you can easily... So there's a few things that I've considered for in the future. So yeah. Oh yeah, how could I forget? Controller compatible. And I'm actually going to just go 100% controller compatible. You can play this game with a controller all you like. Do Flerfias have their safe rooms? So in this world, so there's still a bit that we need to develop with this world, right? So one of the things is that you start. There's not many flat earthers. There's the one flat earther called Dusty, right? And you know he's just considered a loon by anyone or by everyone until you complete the tutorial level. Also, another one is you can decide whether you can decide about the tutorial thing. Decide whether you want to show the tutorial or not. So if it's your first time playing the game, you can have a tutorial showing. If it's not your first time playing the game, you don't have to have a tutorial show. If it's not your first time playing the game, then you can choose not to have a tutorial. God damn it. I know my spelling isn't that good right now. As I said, I've been surviving off V. As I said today, I did an all-nighter last night. I have not slept since about this point yesterday. So I probably haven't been awake for 24 hours quite yet. It's my spelling. I said it like that on purpose. Oh yes, the Illuminati is in my game. So there's two organizations that you'll have to face, right? And possibly a third. I'm going to have to talk to them to see if I can use what they're doing, right? So I need to ask... I could probably just ask them right now. Let's go to the chat room, see if... I don't know if Kiri Mac or Robert Legere is here. Because I could probably just ask one of them if I can use the shills in the game. Because there's going to be the OSI, and then there's going to be SEAL Team 6. That's a given. I've gotten permission from every member of SEAL Team 6 to use their likeliness, and OSI I've gotten most of the members permission. So yeah, have I gotten Rapid X's permission? I'm not sure. And I do have 6 party members planned. I think. Dusty. Alright, so let me just think about this. So your character, Dusty. There's also probably someone from... Oh yeah, there's... Probably... Yeah, so I've definitely got 5 characters that I've got sorted. There may be room for a 6th character. I'd have to think about that. But there could also be like 8 characters. So, at any point in time, you will be able to have 4 characters in a party, right? So your party can consist of 4 characters, and I've got a way to... and some characters may leave your party temporarily to do their own thing. Or maybe they're forced out of your party. Yeah, So, when it came to the character based on Ross, and it's going to be... I'm thinking of taking a bit of inspiration from Sassy the Sasquatch as well. So it's going to be a mix between Ross Thatcher, Sassy the Sasquatch, and Tim Shepard. And I don't know if everyone knows what I'm talking about there, but if you do, that's good. So that character I was initially going to have as a black mage, but then I thought, you know what? Maybe I should make him a white mage, because Dusty can take over the black mage role, right? And it makes much more sense to have Dusty as a black mage character. And there will probably be a few Flat Earth bosses, or bosses who are Flat Earthers. So yeah, there's all kinds of things, and you know, I keep on saying this, but you know, if you want to download the game right now, it's definitely not complete, right? So don't worry, you're not really spoiling yourself, and it helps make the game better. So there is, as a matter of principle, there's going to be no references to Sleeping Warrior in the game whatsoever. Just as a matter of principle. In fact, whenever I make you may have noticed that if I make a video that's based on Sleeping Warrior, I will not mention Sleeping Warrior at all. You know? Because, you know, I'd just like Sleeping Warrior to fade into obscurity. But yeah, and I do take on board ideas. So if I go back to the game, where is it? Here we go. So if I go back to the game, ideas that I've taken on, like Conspiracy Cats. Of course Conspiracy Cats is going to be in the game. Why wouldn't he be? There we go. So there will be a few sort of there will be a few references to different Flat Earthers. I can probably claim satire as fair use on that, you know, because you know, you can satirize people and should be fine, you know. I don't think Dell is going to sue me for having a character that is living in a shed. Oh, that's right. I just remembered something. So shouldn't have gone that way. So, oh yeah, there's also saving. That's another big thing, because, and I haven't saved at all. Items. Oh, no. Oh dear. Oh hey, I leveled up. There we go. So yeah, one of the ideas that was given to me was to have a when you can interact with something, have a prompt. So as I said, I will take feedback and try and implement it in as long as it's reasonable. One of your items could be logic. So no, you don't fully heal when you level up. So when you level up, what happens is you get a stat increase, right? All your stats increase. You can deal more damage. You can you get more MP. You get more HP, and just general perks. I do want to have a stat tree, but that will be a very complex thing to put in, and it's all about resources. So if I have enough time and resources, then yes, I will put a stat tree in, and it really depends on things like donations. I want a stat tree in. It just depends on, can I put a stat tree in? It's all to do with scope. So when it comes to building a game, when it comes to building this game, I really have to consider scope. And I do worry that the scope might be a little bit big right now, but I have a lot of the base work down, so all I have to do is build on what I've got. The foundations are down, right? So it's got the basic combat, it's got basic combat gameplay and all that kind of stuff. So from that, is water H2O in the game? I don't know. Does anyone really know what water is? Pete and Pete sure don't. Peter and Pete sure don't, should I say. And, and also, if you do download the game, you can let me know about what you think. And so if I just bring this over, so if I just bring Discord over for a second. So yes, you can go to the House of Planarwalk, go to Flerfia Alpha, and here's the game right here. Flerfia Alpha build.exe. Simple exe. 5 megabytes, and you can, 5 megabytes, and it's just a thing that you can run. It will probably ask you to scan it because why wouldn't it? And once you've done that, you should be able to play it and see what it's like. There is some difficult parts. There are some parts that people do have trouble with. So just keep that in mind. And there are parts which I even have a bit of trouble with. So I often need to keep in mind the difficulty, because I can easily complete it, right? Other people may have a bit of trouble. But that's other people for you. Is CO2 a gas? Who knows? I mean, I think it's a gas, but, some people might think that it's a salt or something. Because I believe SO2, or SiO2, or silicon dioxide, right? I believe that's a powdery sort of substance.
Isn't that sand?
Possibly.
Don't you just melt down silicon dioxide to make glass?
Possibly. I don't know. I can't remember what people said. I remember something about silicon dioxide, or silicon-based life forms are really difficult to have, especially when it comes to trees, because silicon dioxide is in a different form to carbon dioxide. So sulfur hexafluoride is an interesting gas. So yeah, as I said, just join the server, and you just join the server, and you can actually download the game. And please do let me know what you think of it. You can use a controller with it. You can use your keyboard with it. Okay, silicon dioxide is glass. Oh yeah, link to the server. I think I have a link here. Let me see if it's... Yep, there we go. So yeah, any questions? Oh, and you can also join the stream chat if you want to talk more about it. Like, you can ask me where I got inspirations from, all that kind of stuff. So there is a stream chat there. Let me just bring this up. So yeah, there's a stream chat here which you can join. That's where I'm chatting right now. Although I do see your chats in the live chat. So, and if anyone has any ideas, like so just say you want a feature, right? Now, some features are more difficult than others to put in. So, for example, just simply having questions broke the game. Although that was bad coding that broke the game, but... Oh, gravity's not in the game. We've replaced gravity with density and buoyancy. Now, here's a fun thing, actually, though. I actually accidentally had gravity in it the other day. Actually, no, last night. And the thing is, I don't know how to get rid of the gravity. It's just there. So there's these particles that will, when you kill things in turn-based combat, there'll be these little particles that will go up to the top of the earth, top of the screen, and I think there's a certain angle that it can go, to, right? And it will just orbit it. For no apparent reason, it will just be orbiting the top right-hand side of the screen. I don't know why it does that. It just does that. It's probably some kind of gravitational force that's causing orbits. Well, I actually... So technically, I don't actually use density and buoyancy. Technically, I actually use dropity. So you can, and that's very simple to work out. It's just 2 pixels, an acceleration of 2 pixels downward each frame. And it will, so currently I don't have any fall damage. There will be fall damage. Although you got to be going at a certain speed. I'm going to make it something like maybe 16 frames or 16 pixels per second. You have to be falling at probably 32 because it's an acceleration of 2 pixels per second. If you haven't gotten gravity, do people have helicopter hats to stop the CO2 pooling? I mean, it's just because there's no gravity doesn't mean that it uses the laws of thermodynamics. And that's how it works. Got to look at the second law of thermodynamics. And yeah, thermodynamics is a term that I have actually coined, right? So thermodynamics simply means flat earthers' understanding of thermodynamics. Kind of like you've got perspective, which is a flat earther's understanding of perspective. You know, why can't the globe Earth have an atmosphere? Because thermodynamics. And as for why things fall down, the reason why things fall down is because of dropity. And the secret language of Flerfia. That's a good one. Reminds me of Petersonese. Is there a right angle triangle in there? I should. I've actually had to work out a lot of calculations based on trigonometry, so no flat earther could even make this game. A globe earther had to make it because a flat earther wouldn't be able to figure out the trigonometry involved to have things like so occasionally something will go at an angle and have to work out the gradient. I've had to use the Pythagorean theorem, I think, to figure that out. I actually had to use arctan to get the angle of something, the angle of pointing towards the player for the rockets. The rockets, here's the thing, the rockets were an absolute pain, right, to code. So the rockets in this game, they still don't work properly. I'm just trying to think of why don't they work properly? It doesn't make any sense. But anyway, the rockets, the rockets are a pain to code because essentially put them in a vacuum. So essentially, how they operate is they point at the player. So they'll adjust their. So essentially, what it will work out is it will work out, okay, where is the player in relation to me? And we'll use, it'll get the arctan of the direction it's point. It'll get the arctan of the angle to the player. So then what it does is it then has to go, okay, well, if I'm not pointing in the direction that the player is, it has to figure out, okay, which direction do I need to point in? So if it's pointing in the exact opposite direction, it has to circle around and chase the player. And it's got to try and do this without crashing. So many rockets actually crash and just give you XP because they crash. That's why sometimes you'll notice you get like 2 XP or 3 XP. And it's like, okay, I don't know why I got any XP. And you don't get XP if you get hit by rockets. If the rockets hit you, then you don't get any XP from them. So, it then comes down to, okay, and I'm going to make... that's actually something I need to fix up. But I'm going to make it that the rockets can damage enemies as well. So, when it comes to the rockets, they try and calculate the direction to you. Then it's got to work out, okay, if I'm pointing in the wrong direction, how do I point in the right direction? So it does a check up and down, checks if it's higher or lower, and it also checks if it's left or right. So if it's pointing left, it will actually work out, okay, can I turn up? If I can turn up, go up. If I can't, check down and then turn down if I can. So if there's an obstacle in a way, just say it's going down a narrow passageway and you've managed to avoid it and it's worked itself into a narrow passageway, we'll actually try and avoid going up or down because, that would kill itself. It's trying not to do that. But it's also got to work out, okay, which way do I go to get the player? And so it's sometimes, even though it will be suicide, going directly for the player is better than not going directly for the player because even if it misses the player, the explosion will still get the player. So, and this is all complicated mathematics that a flat earther wouldn't be able to comprehend. Imagine trying to explain this to a flat earther. Okay, you got to use trigonometry. Well, do you understand what the interior angles of a triangle are? If I have a triangle with sides 1, 1, and 1, what are the interior angles of a triangle? And they'll go, I don't know, 45. Yeah, flat earthers can barely comprehend 1 plus 1. You're right. Wonder if they will eventually be able to move on to the question: what if a triangle has sides 2, 2, and 2? What are the interior angles? Will your character need to build a shield to protect him from the heavenly energies? Possibly. That might actually be an idea. That might actually be an idea for one of the later chapters. As I said, put a horizon there and the globe can hide behind. That'd be an interesting thing. So technically this is not a flat earth model. This is based entirely on fiction. Because flat earth is based on fiction. So this game, right, it's completely fictional. And in a way, it really takes the piss out of. Not only does it take the piss out of flat Earth, it also takes the piss out of other conspiracies as well. So, regardless of whether the flat Earth one is the most memeable, right? But you can actually create an entire world based around flat Earth. But yeah, there will be other conspiracies in there as well. And if you download the game, and as I say, if you want to download the game, just join my Discord. It's in Flerfia Alpha right here. Maybe the bot's broken. But and also you can join the stream that's happening. Oh, to join the stream, you just have to click on stream here. It should be open to anyone. Literally, you don't have to have any. All potions need to be homeopathic remedies. I should do that. Because currently what I've got right now is I've got... so, it's... Will you buy a potion? Now only $29.99. So you don't actually have to use the bot to get into the stream. At least not right now. At least not for this stream. Other streams like the Globe Earth versus Flat Earth debates, you do have to use the bot. Infinite dilution for the win. Yeah. I'll probably have something to do with homeopathy. In fact, right, I might make it that some interesting... I think the bot might be broken right now or something. But what I might do is I might have essential oils, right? And they can give you status effects. So if you use an essential oil, just say you use lavender oil, right? That might give you I don't know, what's a good effect for lavender oil? Maybe that can be I'm just thinking what a good effect for lavender oil would be. So yeah, there will be status effects. I haven't programmed that in yet because it'll come. I'm thinking lavender oil will be something like shit. A shield buff, maybe. Regen, that's the one that I was thinking of. So regeneration might be lavender oil. Smell eradication. Or it could be an antidote to poison. Actually, an antidote should be a homeopathic remedy. That should be the antidote to poison. Will be homeopathic remedy. So if one of your characters have poison, then a homeopathic remedy will because there's so many things that I can use for conspiracy theories, and especially when it comes to medicine. And as I said in my recent video, which actually got demonetized, right? Until it was approved. Yay, I guess. But it got seen by not a whole lot of people, even though people did support it. People were like, this is a good video. Some people disagreed with me, but a lot of people were saying, you make some really good points. So, either way, I'm happy when I get positive feedback. It means I'm doing something right. Ask the Batman, barman. Oh yeah, I can ask the barman sarcastically. I'll check the old RPG tune for ideas. I mean, we can easily go essential oils. Bring that over here. God damn it. What essential oils are? So, peppermint. So, peppermint could be a speed boost. Lavender, I was thinking regen. Sandalwood would be a attack boost, I think. Bergamot, I think that could be good. Bergamot, I think, could be good for something like shield. Senna would be speed boost. I feel like this is a pseudoscience thing. Essential oils. I'm always, if I am, I'm always skeptical of something that promotes lemon. Huh. Tea tree used to fight infections and boost immunity. That could be something like just remove chamomile used for improving mood and relaxation. Rose used to improve mood and reduce anxiety. Cinnamon could cure freeze, possibly actually. Weed strains. Yeah, I feel like this is somewhat pseudoscientific. Wait, do they have citations here? No, they don't seem to have citations. Oh wait, the citations are pop-up. Okay. Maybe I should have a cooking minigame in it. CBD. There are some things that I will refuse to do in this game, though. I am absolutely refusing to make Breatharianism seem good. That's one thing that I'm refusing. Now, I don't think I have seen that video. I saw a GIF recently though that had Fight the Flat Earth doing something. Seemed like he was dancing. Crude oil for fractionating. I'll probably have some. Yeah, I'll probably have a few essential oils that damage the enemy. So that would be things like crude oil. You'll be actually crude oil.
What about vaccines?
Oh, is it? Yeah, I was actually thinking of that. You know, use vaccines to give the enemy autism or something like that. I'll just have a status effect called autism. Nobody knows what it does or why it's bad. It's just...
No, it's like a confusion effect. It makes them hurt themselves when they try to attack.
That could actually work. Well, I mean... Like, you know, I do think that the whole vaccines cause autism thing, like, at first I thought that it was ridiculous, right? I thought, there's no way that it could cause autism, and surely people aren't using that as an argument. Then I later found out that, yes, people were using that as an argument, and found out why people are using that as an argument. But I think sometimes it's okay to joke about it. It's not okay. Like, there's some autism jokes which I do find really offensive. Most of the time, like, I think it was really, autism jokes were really big 1 or 2 years ago. Thankfully, I don't see a lot of them nowadays. It might just be the circles that I am in. And some of them can be funny, but most of them I just found unfunny. That's why I didn't like them. Yeah, it's like, I think when it comes to this kind of thing, I think that it is like one of the things about this game. So I'm going to try and address 2 things at once. I am running low on sleep, so... Artism, and people would get the joke, yeah. Oh, Rider of Dinosaurs here. Rider of Dinosaurs, you're more than welcome to come on. I did see your video recently. But... what was I saying? So... Shit, I lost my train of thought. So yeah, it's definitely better to, you know, if vaccines did cause autism, it'd be far better to get vaccinated than to not get vaccinated. I mean, apparently... Yeah, my train of thought derailed. Apparently ADHD is on the spectrum. And I'm like, okay. Apparently I'm on the spectrum.
I don't know how that works. Because my brother has ADHD, but he doesn't act autistic at all, whereas I act extremely autistic, but I haven't been diagnosed with anything besides bipolar depression.
I mean, it could be just down to what you get tested for. Like, if you... So I got tested for ADD, right? And it came back positive for ADHD. My parents didn't agree with that, right? They thought I had ADD because I wasn't hyperactive at all. My mind tells a different story. But when it comes to... But I haven't been tested for anything like Asperger's. And so it could be possible that I do have that. Like, I've got a couple of the symptoms. I don't think I have every symptom. I think it's more likely that I just have ADHD, and ADHD causes me to not have a lot of eye contact with people. Because it's not that I can't have eye contact. I am perfectly capable of looking into someone's eyes. You know, it's not scary for me at all. I don't have an urge to look away. The only reason why I might have an urge to look away is because I want to look at something else, right? And you may notice that when I do live streams, I don't always look at the camera. Like right now I am. It's just that I, like looking around. Because I get bored if I look at one particular thing. So I have trouble focusing. So I think that's more likely what it is. So the DSM-V classifies it as part of the autism spectrum. Okay. Maybe a double boss named Dunning and Kruger. Yeah, like I can usually when I'm making eye contact with people, I'm trying to get their attention. That's usually what I'll do. I'll usually look someone, and because I'll usually be looking away, I'll usually be looking directly at them to try and get their attention by staring at them. So, So, yeah, when it comes... you don't like contact with people. Yeah, it can be a little bit tricky at times, having contact with people. The D&K bosses. That's actually probably a good thing for a joke, right? I'll have like a tower, right? And as you're going up to the tower, it hypes up this really powerful boss.
Ah, I knocked my microphone off my desk.
Okay. So, what will happen is the Dunning-Kruger boss will be, it will really hype it up, and you'll come across this huge boss, and you can kill it in one hit. Question: has anyone actually downloaded the game? Because I really want to get feedback on this. No one's downloaded the game. You really should. Because, as I said, it's not finished, but it gives you an idea of how it will play. Yeah, but, it's like, it's a demo. It's not going to spoil anything. Oh, so you can down... So it's just in... So if I go to here... So you can get in here. There's no restrictions to get in here. And you... So yeah, you can download it just by joining my Discord. I'll put a link in the description. And you can go to Flerfia Alpha. It should be there available, and you can just download there. And if you want to give feedback, just put it in Flerfia Alpha, and I'll be sure to take it into consideration. And if you encounter a bug... there is a bug with loading with loading. When can we shoot at Flurfs without getting hit? You actually play as a Flurf. Funnily enough. Although you don't start as a you do start as a globe earther. No disrespect, but you are competing with .LL. Who am I competing with? Seriously though, who am I? I'm confused as to who I'm competing with. Am I competing with Candy Crush? If I'm competing with Candy Crush, yeah, you start normal and become a Flerfia. So, essentially, by the end of the tutorial, you are a flat earther. And that's where your journey starts. Well, it's a game where the Earth is actually flat. So, you know. And there's things like SEAL Team 6. There's things like SEAL Team 6. There's things like the Office of Strategic Influence. And all that kind of stuff. And we're gonna be going on to Kickstarter. Oh yeah, I am definitely gonna sell it. You know, the alpha build that's currently available. So here's the sort of release plan. So currently there's an alpha build which is available. It's going to go into demo sometime soon, where it's just a demo of how the game plays. Once I've worked out all the bugs and fixed all of the bugs, then it will go into demo. After demo, it goes into it will go into beta, and by the time that beta is out, there should be a Kickstarter that hopefully the Kickstarter gets funded, and then it'll go into beta, and anyone funding the Kickstarter gets if you're in a certain tier, you get exclusive beta access, right? And even if you've got beta access, it just means you get this start of the story. There's going to be I think when it comes to the story, I can actually admit it pretty easily. So, for example, if you've got how I'll basically omit will have God mode. Well, it's going to be one difficulty, right? So all the way through the game, it'll be one difficulty. You can over-level yourself if you want. I'm going to try and make it so that if you play the game normally, you shouldn't have too much. You should have a decent amount of difficulty, but it won't be completely. So, how do you program gravity into this game? I program gravity, so it's not gravity, it's dropity. I replaced gravity with dropity, and it's just a 2 pixel per. It's basically a 2 pixel per frame drop. So, will we need to get dumber as we turn Fleur? So, I'm gonna have a few comic relief characters. Like, I'm thinking of a character based on Ross Thatcher that's just called Tim. All right, and this guy will essentially be a comic relief character who knows a bit more than he lets on, but he will say some incredibly stupid stuff. Oh, with the relative density disequilibrium, that's how double jumps are performed. So one thing I'm going to have to do, and this is actually still yet to be programmed in, and I'll probably be one of the next tasks that I take on, and that is programming certain items you can equip, and when you equip these items, you'll be able to get certain abilities. So if you equip certain swords, you'll get certain abilities. They might have certain abilities attached. Certain items will have certain abilities attached to them also. How about a boss who doesn't exist when you no longer observe him? That might be interesting. It could be one of the final bosses, actually. There's going to be a boss. So, I could get in contact with him. One person who would be fun to work with would be Mick West. So yeah, there's going to be all kinds of things. Like one item that I'm going to have is vinegar. Alright. It's already decided. You get vinegar. Vinegar stops random encounters. Because it gets rid of the chemtrails, which causes random encounters. So, because if I go to the game for a second, where is it? Here we go. So if I go resume chemtrails, right? And to get rid of these chemtrails, what do you use? Vinegar. Makes sense, right? Is flat out the Joker. So I'm trying to work out what I was thinking of making. Flat out a ninja, right? Or not a ninja, a monk type character. Yeah, the fog is chemtrails. It actually literally says it in the tutorial. So you must breathe in the chemtrails, and they cause random encounters, right? So if you want to get rid of random encounters, just say you're low on HP and need to get to a you just say you're low on HP and need to get to a point where you can rest up or something. Then you'll be able to essentially what was it? Shit, I keep on forgetting.
Hey, do you want to see my most recent one-hit win?
Yeah, I'll just click on the thing in Discord. Okay, cool. So what was I saying? I was saying something.
Oh, I just realized you still have my name as Coco Person.
Oh yeah, that's coming up on stream. That's because you're playing Coco Garashi on your YouTube channel.
It's not even called Coco Garashi anymore. It's now called Daigaku Garashi. It doesn't even work anymore.
Well, I put your name as Coco Person when you're playing Coco Garashi. So I was saying something about the game, but I've lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
Shit. So, there will be a few characters, as I said, there will be a few characters based on real people, on real Flat Earthers. And it will be a thing of you try and... I think I was mentioning... Maybe I was... but you... yeah, I keep on forgetting my train of thought. As I said, I have had no sleep last night. I was putting this together. And I think oh yeah, one of the things that I'd like to do, I think this is what I was thinking about earlier, is and Fight the Flat Earth is also helping with the world of this. So there's going to be a book that's going to be available. So when it comes to this game, there's going to be what I'm hoping. Train of thought here, what is it? What I'm hoping for this game is I'm hoping to, if it gets fully funded, like stretch goals and everything, I want to have a final boss that is, I want to create a super boss. A 2-hour super boss, right? There'll be saving in between. I'm not completely cruel. There'll be you'll get the opportunity to save in between particular parts of the battle. But it'll be switching between the turn-based, and platformer, and it will be brutal. As I said, you will get to save, but this save will be a temporary save. So yeah, there will be a few people based on. Like, I'm thinking there will be a character probably based on J.M. Truth, Nathan Oakley, yeah, probably, and Mark Sargent. Yeah, I'm not. I know more of what I'd do for someone like J.M. Truth, because J.M. Truth is very unique. Mark Sargent is kind of meh. Using the Zelda model, the final boss will sequence through the abilities of all the previous bosses. So yeah, I could do something like that. There's going to be a super boss though. So the super boss will be its... Oh, I shouldn't say there will be, because this is more of a idea that if I manage to get the game done, then yeah. So the idea will be that if I get the super boss done, or if I get enough money to fund for the super boss will be will basically be God. And it'll be powerful. And it will be post-game. In fact, it will be canonical post-game. And it'll be... You basically have to fight a god, a literal god. I might have a boss called Nathan. It's not ambiguous to what his last name is, and he'll put in... That's an idea. There'll be an ability called Mute. So I'm not doing this completely alone, right? That's why I need funding. Because for this game to work, I need to get funding so that I can pay people to create assets, because even though I can create like this little shop asset that you see here, right? That's something that I created. But the person that you see on screen, that's something that was created by Arbiter and Sammy, who are part of the team. And as for the background that you see, that was created by me. I do level design, some sprite design, programming, all of it. Story design, although I'm also hoping to get a bit of help from Fight the Flat Earth on the story side of things. And then there's also... What else do? I do a little bit of sound design, not a whole lot. I'm hoping to get Canadian Thomas on that. And I think that's it. And I have a plot design, I guess, is another thing, because I know exactly where the plot's gonna is gonna go. It's gonna start. Chapter 1, as I said, is going to be probably the first. Well, chapter 1 is probably going to be the main sort of chapter, and the other chapters will follow from that, having their own little stories and stuff. Yeah, so yeah, I guess that could be one thing, because it is a thing where sometimes I get ahead on the graphics, ahead on the programming compared to the graphics, and although that's not always bad, because usually when you're programming a game, if you're working with a team that can create graphics, you'll usually have if you're doing all the programming alone, there's always something that you can add, right, without graphics, generally. Now, for the shop, I had to create my own graphics for it, but, you know, it's not too bad. It's just an alien at a shop, you know? And The UI, that's not too difficult to design. There are definitely things which I could do better in the UI. And sometimes there'll be a sprite which I've got to design, like the rocket or the plasma towers. You know, they are something that I decided to design because I wanted to have more. I wanted to have some platformer combat. There are some things that I'll probably need to pass off to other people. Like I'm thinking of having spiders.
Someone's here.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Hello, Ash Panache. How's it going?
How you doing?
I'm doing good. Yourself?
Not bad. Just got home from work.
Oh, nice. So, do you have any questions about this game?
Yes.
Okay. Fire away.
What is this game?
Okay, so this game is a game called Flerfia, right?
Okay.
As much as it may say imagination on the window, it's called Flerfia. and it's going to stay saying imagination on the game window.
Sure.
Because, you know, it is about imagination. So it's a game in which the Earth is actually flat.
Okay.
So, and this is revealed to you through Belu the alien.
The Earth is flat and there are aliens.
Yes,
So there is space.
possibly. There's interdimensional portals.
I see, yeah. Because, yeah, the globe is ridiculous, but interdimensional portals, yeah. No problem there.
So, there's going to be a few places that, like, one person, like, people were suggesting things like Flatlantis is going to be one location that you might be able to go to. I'm thinking of having a arc about that particular area.
Well, let's see, the places you have to have the wall, the Antarctic wall,
Yep.
for sure.
Yeah, the ice wall.
Maybe something on a plane where you find out that, you know, it's really going straight or whatever.
Well, so you find out the Earth is flat pretty early on in the game. So pretty early on, you get to look out over the horizon at it from a high place. I'm not sure about the dome, right? The dome is something that I'm unsure about because I like the idea of an infinite universe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's an infinite flat plane, then, you know, it's much...
Well, that explains where aliens could come from, because they're just way out there.
Yeah.
Like, way, way far away.
But then again, I can also... I can circumvent the whole dome thing by having interdimensional portals. And that can lead to an infinite universe.
So what's the central conflict of the game?
So the central conflict is the globe. Oh, the globe is being pushed on people and to control the masses. And there's a whole lot of conspiracies to stop people from finding out that the Earth is actually flat.
But it looks like you have HP and MP, so it's more of like a fighting game.
Yeah, so it's an RPG,
Right.
platformer RPG. So if I'm pretty low on HP. HP. Let's see if I can get some money and make it back to the shop.
So I guess you would start by fighting like the low-level globetards, but then slowly get up to like NASA employees and then like the Illuminati.
Yeah, I think I'm almost dead. So yeah, you do. Yeah, so you do start out with fighting low-level enemies. So this enemy that I'm currently in a battle with here is pretty low-level, although they are pretty dangerous because they can wipe me out in 2 hits. Currently, Oh, shit.
Hey, Planner, I made the silver tier 2 on Magic.
Oh, nice. And, so yeah, you can use abilities and all that kind of stuff, and, I'm probably going to die. And...
You don't have cheat codes yet?
No, I generally don't have... Yeah, I'm gonna die. Unless I, oh, even then, I'll probably still die.
Oh, didn't kill you.
Yeah, but it got me pretty low on HP. One hit and I'm dead.
I'm getting sort of a Zelda 2 Pitfall vibe.
Just. Okay. I have to... Okay. If I can make it past this area without taking a single damage, then I'm...
Gaining experience, at least.
Yeah, if I can make it past this area without taking a single hit, right? Alright. I've got a tactic. Right. Okay.
I'm gonna go get something to eat.
I died.
It hasn't caught up on my stream yet. Yeah, there you go.
Hey Planner, do you wanna play Magic with me?
I'm currently in the middle of a stream. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember. You can stream Magic. I won't watch.
Well,
Yeah, I still have the comments out. I separated it from the stream, so
yeah. Well,
I can see what people are saying without looking at the stream.
yeah. Well, I usually keep streaming Magic to Twitch. By the way, you can. Follow me on Twitch if you want. Twitch.tv/Planarwalk, and sometimes I stream on there.
Okay.
For anyone that wants to follow me. For anyone that wants more Planarwalk, and we have fun with playing Magic the Gathering. In case anyone's wondering where my name came from. It came from a particular Magic the Gathering card, so... Well, it's derived.
I figured... I guess planar because of the flat Earth and walking the flat Earth.
Well,
that was my guess.
Well, no, it's... even though I'm named... So... Even though I make YouTube videos about whether the Earth is flat or a globe, I actually... That wasn't the intention behind my name. The intention behind my name was more it sounded cool. So...
Sure, no, I get that.
So I was trying to think of... you got people like PewDiePie on YouTube, and they've got names like PewDiePie, and... They've got unique names, and I was thinking, well, Planarwalk, no one's using that. And so I decided to go by Planarwalk, and that's what everyone now knows me as. I find it's much better to go by something like Planarwalk than use your actual name. Like, people could call me Nick, right? But, why would I... There's probably heaps of people called Nick on YouTube, right?
Yeah, you gotta differentiate yourself somehow, for sure.
So, yeah. And, it's something that was free, so I decided I'll use Planarwalk. And I'm surprised that no one actually uses it anywhere apart from me. Oh. You used to work for Wizards of the Coast and you were Tim, the original prodigal sorcerer. You are the devil, Nick. I get all kind of... I've heard it all, by the way. So, Nick the dick. Nick the prick. I've heard it all before. Oh, nice. What you using for version control? So, because I am the lead programmer or sole programmer on the on this game, when it comes to me, when it comes to the version control, I just have one version. I put it on. I regularly update it to Google Drive so that I can, if something happens to the data, I can bring it back. Because that would be a shame if I had a, if I created a really good system, or if a system is an absolute pain to create, that goes on Google Drive immediately. Because I don't want to lose that shit. So essentially, in fact, before I started streaming, I actually started uploading the current version, the version that you've been watching me mess around with. I've uploaded that to Google Drive. All the source files, all that. And so it's not the source files I'm not making publicly available, but you can download the exe version from my Discord server. And as I said, there's all these advantages here. You've got quicker. So when I compare it to my game Unescapable, and it's got quicker player movement, better music, consistent UI, better game flow, destructible objects, and it's 100% controller compatible. Okay. I mean, yeah, so I don't use... The reason why I'm not using version control is because, if I really need to roll it back, I can roll it back. As I said, I've got all the files on Google Drive. And I'm probably going to have to update it at some point, like go through the code and update it to... Because this is using GameMaker Studio version 1.4. So at some point, if I'm wanting to make it multi-platform, and I do want to make it multi-platform, it just costs money to get GameMaker Studio 2, and yeah, I need to get a Kickstarter going, and so yeah. And besides, a lot of the modules here I can actually deconstruct. So if I fuck up one module, right, I can kind of deconstruct it. In fact, yesterday I was actually... I was trying to say... What did I program? I was programming in a module for consistency. When you enter a battle... So, for those of you who are uninitiated to how things work in GameMaker, objects are generally not persistent between rooms. So when I load up the room of, so when I load up a what is it? So when I load up the battle, what will happen is it will be a... So it will destroy everything that's currently in the game, except for a few objects that are marked as persistent. So that is the UI, so the interface object that controls all the UI that is marked as persistent. But everything else gets destroyed. Oh, and the music the music manager stays as well, because that needs to be consistent between two things. So what happens is everything else gets destroyed for sake of memory, and I don't want it being active when it goes to a new room. So all that's destroyed, but I need to save some of the data. So, for example, when you when you go out of a room, some of the information from the previous room, like some objects that were in the previous room, they're saved to a list. And when you go back in, they are restored. That's why if you were to go so many stages away from the original object and then go back in, it would be as if the room was just loaded, because I can't store I can't store every single bit of information.
Have you been watching Yahtzee's series, his Dev Diary series?
No, I haven't.
So this guy on, do you know who Yahtzee is?
No.
Yahtzee?
So Yahtzee is a guy on The Escapist. He's done does zero punctuation of these really fast reviews of games, and these very cynical reviews of games. But he develops games, and for the past he's made a pledge to develop 12 games in 12 months. He also uses Game Maker. He's more focusing on gameplay types. His focus is on like just trying different types of gameplay loops and figuring out different ways to play with things. So I mean, you have your loops down. It seems like it looks like it's exploration is loop one is your main loop or primary loop, and your secondary loop is fighting.
Yeah. So,
but it's been interesting to watch him because he's already on his like fourth game, and they're very interesting to see.
Yeah. So yeah, the primary you're right. The primary loop would have to be exploration, because as you go from stage to stage, there'll be things that will pop up, and you'll be able to find different items that'll allow you to fight. And there's two different types of fighting. And I see Flat Earth Aussie Jesus has showed up. Ahoy hoy, Flat Earth Aussie Jesus. And he says that Planarwalk is actually a Flat Earth name. Closet Nick. No, I'm not a Flat Earther. It's just something that I got from Magic the Gathering, so... you have serious server issues?
Sorry to hear that, Flat Earth. Oh, so Jesus, you're always fun to talk to.
Yeah. As I've said, I believe I've said it multiple times. Flat Earth Aussie Jesus is my favourite Flat Earther. You know? Dell would probably have to be my second favourite. But that's just because of the memes. I probably wouldn't be able to have a good conversation with Dell. Although he seems like this type of person you could easily have a beer with, though. You know?
He'd be fun to hang out with, yeah, and get drunk with, I guess. But to have a conversation with seems not that into it.
Yeah.
I got a spoonful of frosting, which is probably not the best idea.
I mean, when it comes to...
Why? Yeah. Skip the cake part entirely. There's no need. It's just extra filler.
Yeah, when it comes to good ideas, like... I mean, I've got an energy drink here, and I haven't slept since probably this time yesterday. So I've been up probably 24 hours or something. And I'm feeling fine!
I just made myself a Manhattan.
A what?
It's a cocktail. It's
Oh.
bourbon and sweet vermouth.
Yeah, I don't generally drink. If I'm drinking, I have to be drinking with someone or drinking around other people. If I'm drinking and I'm alone, then it's like, you know, some people seem to drink to try and drink alone to try and get rid of their depression, but I think that would just intensify it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not drinking alone. Obviously, I'm talking to you, but it's also, I mean, a drink to unwind. There's nothing wrong with that, and especially after it's Friday, got home from work. Yeah, I can have a drink. I think I never I don't get drunk. I haven't gotten drunk in years,
Hmm.
but having a few drinks or a drink, that's why it's one of the reasons I like cocktails as opposed to like beer and stuff. Is although I'm a very big beer fan, if you drink a lot of beer, um, you get it's pretty easy to put on weight and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Whereas cocktails, you don't need that much.
Yeah, I one drink that I like is Sambuca,
Mm-hmm.
and that's I like that drink because it's because you don't need a lot, and you can and it tastes nice. You know, it's for me. I don't like beer because it just I
You like beer, you just haven't been exposed to the right one. There's there's as many beers as there are cheeses in terms of styles. So like if you've eaten American cheese or Velveeta your entire life, and then you suddenly go into a big cheese aisle, you'll be like, "What? What the heck?" And the same thing happens with beers, I guarantee you. But that doesn't mean. But at the same time, I mean, I totally understand. Like what you like.
the one beer that I did like, although it's not very high in alcohol content, is it's the citrus beer, and
Okay.
that has a nice flavor to it, but it's like 2% alcohol, and it's like, okay, this ain't gonna get me drunk.
Sounds like you'd be into Radlers. They're beer mixed with fruit juice.
That might be nice. One that I do, one thing that I do often do, right? And last time I did this, I got a hangover, right? So it's there's this particular bottle of wine. It's so many standard drinks. I think it's like something like 6.8 standard drinks or something. Single bottle of wine, right? And I'll drink that. And if I drink it all in one night, then usually I'll be a little bit tipsy. And usually I don't get hungover. Last time I did for some reason, but I don't know if that was because of the wine or because I didn't have I didn't get much sleep. I won't say that I didn't have a good sleep because I did have a nice sleep. I just don't think I got much sleep.
I mean, I'm 40, going to be 43 soon. I have a lot of experience with drinking and stuff, and of course, it's easier for me to get a hangover because you're older and your body doesn't work as well. But what I've found is if you definitely don't want to have a hangover, drink for every drink you have, also have the same amount of water. And it's hard to do because it's hard to keep that pace. But if you do that, you should be okay.
Yeah. I yeah, that seems to make sense actually. Yeah, I just tend to what I tend to do is I tend to have food with my alcohol, because if I don't have food,
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that'll help too.
yeah, because I think last time I had alcohol and didn't have, or one time I had alcohol, like I had 10 ready to drink or RTDs of vodka, right? And the next day I was throwing up. So I learnt my lesson from that. I have.
Can you drink vodka now? Because I had a similar thing happen to me when in my early 20s with tequila, and I still have a hard time with tequila. Like my brain just rejects it.
I think what sort of I'm still okay with vodka. Like I don't drink it as much as I used to, because when I was in Australia, I got this like 1 liter or 750 ml of vodka bottle, right? And yeah, I made the mistake of having a couple of shots, so yeah, it kind of turned me off vodka.
Shots are dangerous, for sure, if you don't know what you're getting yourself into.
They're nice. They warm your throat. Like if you're cold, yeah, have a shot. It'll be nice and warm to you, but it doesn't taste that nice.
No, there's in America. I'm not sure how big it is. At least I don't even know how big it is in America. I mean, America's huge, and there's plenty of different cultures all around. But in where I am in Pittsburgh, when I was 20, the big thing was Jägermeister, which is this licorice flavored concoction that's sort of syrupy.
Yeah.
It's gross, but everyone drinks it anyway because it's got a lot of alcohol, and everyone just drinks it. And they make sure to drink it super cold.
Okay.
But it's like,
yeah, like,
and I don't know the things you do when you're young.
Yeah, Jaeger. So I have had Jaeger, right? And it's like when people say licorice, like I usually think Zambuca is really nice. So,
I'm a big fan of like fennel.
Huh?
Right, fennel with some fish. I mean, that's some good stuff. But licorice, I'm a little like that's too much. And then when it's in this concentrated syrupy form, I think that I almost think that it psychologically makes you just down it faster, which does the job because it gets you drunker quicker.
Oh, that didn't work with me last time I tried it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had it really slow because it just didn't taste right. Zambuca, on the other hand, I could probably easily down a whole bottle of that pretty easily because it's just something that you can pour a shot and and it tastes nice. So,
yeah, those can be dangerous. I remember one time Goldschlager. I did that with it. That was a bad morning.
So yeah, like for me, I think I focus a lot on the tastes because if it tastes nice, then I'll drink it. If it doesn't taste nice, then I won't drink it. One of the problems that I've got a sort of conundrum with though, right, is when it comes to there's two different types of wine. One tastes nice, but one gets me perfectly drunk. So there's so with the type of wine that I get there, and they both cost the same amount. So there's Moscato, and then there's Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay.
And
I'm not a wine guy, but yeah.
Well, the Moscato tastes nice, right? But the Sauvignon Blanc, it doesn't taste as great as the Moscato, but it gets me drunk enough. And yes, we were talking about a video game when the stream started, but it's nice to have a little bit of a talk about other topics.
So, I mean, what I've done late, since I've grown into this is I compare. I value my sobriety to a certain point. I mean, I like the feeling of getting like buzzed but after a certain point, you get diminishing returns. Yeah. So I decide whether something is sort of worth my sobriety, and I try to keep it down that. And in my experience, I'm usually able to make it so I never get to the point where I'd be okay after just 2 hours of not drinking and drinking water and not having anything. I never get past that point, but that's just experience more than anything else.
Yeah. So I was going to bust out like a couple of notes and say one of the main concerns about drinking alcohol is, but I've only got a few 10-cent coins. But yeah, one of the main concerns with me and alcohol is not good for my wallet. So that's why, like maybe if I had a bit more money, then I'd drink a little bit more. But I don't find that I get unless I'm in a social setting, and if I'm in a social setting, then alcohol is nice, especially if it's people that you don't know. It can take a bit of the edge off. But when it comes,
yeah, for sure.
But when it comes to anything else, okay, so there is one thing that would be nice to do with alcohol, and that would be record a few videos with it, because I think that would be fucking funny. And there's been one time where I actually did record a video drunk. You can find it on Fight the Flat Earth's channel. It was just before Sleeping Warrior Week. And so, that was pretty funny. Because I was actually drunk. That wasn't me acting. I was literally drunk, and I thought, well, I'll see what I can come up with. It's not like I'm going to sober up anytime soon. So I drunkenly recorded a video and sent it in to Fight the Flat Earth, hoping that it wasn't too bad, and it worked. Because, yeah, essentially...
So what... Sorry, what... I was going to change the subject, but if you're still got stuff...
Oh, you can change the subject.
What's the late... I have been out of the loop because I've been very busy doing work, and I haven't been checking in. What's the latest Flat Earth news or skeptic news that's going around?
So I think I think the latest argument from the Flat Earthers is the analemma. So when it comes to the analemma, it's really stupid because, if you're going to bring up something vague that, I can bring up heaps of things that support the globe, but when you bring up something vague like the analemma to try and support your argument, and it's like, oh, the thing is, the bottom part of the southern part of the analemma is wider than the top part of the analemma. It's like, okay, do you think maybe we expect to see that on the globe?
I'm not even familiar with the analemma. That it sounds like I may have heard it before, but I don't. I have to look that up.
Yeah, it's so the analemma is like the path of the sun during the highest part of the time of the day where the sun is highest in the sky, and it forms a figure eight. And so they say, oh, that proves the flat Earth, and it's like, well, does it?
How does that prove the flat Earth? Well, obviously, I mean, it's silly to say anything proves the flat Earth because the Earth is not flat. But,
Yep. Peaks on each day. Philemon Vanderbeek said it right. So I don't think that it proves the flat Earth. I don't think it supports the flat Earth. I think it's best described in a globe model because we can account for how seasons change and that kind of thing. And but flat Earth is, morons will be morons.
I mean, what bugs me, and I mentioned this in somewhere else, some other channel, is that if you let's accept that the Earth is flat, right? But no one has a model that works. But if we use the fake globe model that's being proposed, if we just take those numbers and plug them in, we actually get results that exactly match reality. So these fake globe model guys who are making this fake model are doing a really good job of it.
I was actually watching last night. I was actually watching I was watching a very interesting video, right, by Destiny, and it was he was debating a globe earther, right, and he was I don't think that he's a flat earther, but he was arguing on the side of the flat earther, and as I said, I don't think he's a flat earther, but the globe earther lost. The person that was arguing for the globe lost that debate. He was absolutely slaughtered.
I mean, that can definitely happen because if you don't understand the subject that you're going to be arguing, which is something we see with the flat earthers a lot, but people would say there's many people who know the Earth is a globe, I mean, I don't want to validate the flat earther's point any more than it has to be, but there are people who just hear something and then say, well, that's how it is, and I don't understand it, but I'm going to argue for it anyway.
Like the first point. So I think the first point that the person brought up was an accelerometer, and Destiny then said, "Well, how do you calibrate an accelerometer?" And the person didn't really know. But then they moved on to if you walk in a straight line and then take a 90-degree turn, and then walk a bit more in a straight line, then take a 90-degree turn. Eventually, you'll end. Eventually you'll have two lines that intersect, and the problem here is that it's impractical to actually do that. Now, a better way to do this would be argue with these things right here, these flight charts, which have to, they have to be accurate, and if you lay them out, you can actually, it conforms to a globe shape. You can show that if.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can't actually map a flat space onto a globe because there's no way for a 2D flat surface to fit over the 2D surface of a sphere.
Yeah. So
1-to-1.
Yeah. So then there was, what was the next point brought up? There was something about the moon, right? And the moon's light, and whoo boy, did this person do badly on it. So Destiny was arguing that the how can we have a ring around a ring from the sun during a lunar eclipse, right? Or no, during a solar eclipse. And so the person was saying diffraction, right? And I was thinking, you don't need to say diffraction. All you need to say is you just need to say that there's is angular size, right?
Right, it's the annular eclipse where it's slightly small. The moon would be slightly smaller than the sun. So
yeah,
there you go.
So it's angular size will cause the moon to block out the sun, and Destiny did argue, isn't it very coincidental that it just so happens to be the exact size or exact distance that it needs to be to eclipse out the sun? It's like, well, I'd make the argument that we may think that it's coincidental, but what if it had been closer? Then it would completely block out the sun even more. If it was a little bit further away, then would have a smaller ring or a much larger ring around it, and so because it would be blocking out less of the sun. So would attribute this is so precise either way.
Right. I mean, the thing about the fact that the Earth and the Sun are approximately the same angular size is, you'd expect on any random planet anywhere that something is going to, be some weird factor of, that has a probability of 1 in 400 of happening is going to happen.
Yeah.
So the fact that something coincidental happened is not. And it's really that we are living in a time when the moon is roughly the angular size of the sun, because it used to be obviously closer beforehand, at least according to our model. But what always gets me is that the question and answer to globe stuff is we have pictures. I mean, I don't know how the debate doesn't end there. I know it doesn't. But that's always like we have tons of pictures and video and constant stuff from space, and no, you can't CGI a real-time view from the space station. That's impossible. Go ask anybody who has done any CGI, which of course they are just as knowledgeable about as they are spherical. How spheres work. But like at that point, how do you if they're not going to if they're never going to accept any picture or video, then they're not going to accept any other fact you give them.
Yeah. one of the things that that you bring up here, and this is actually a pretty good argument to say, well, how are they able to CGI all this stuff? You know, NASA. So one person may argue, well, one person may argue, well, they have a whole lot of computers, you know, it's just got a whole lot of computers working in tandem to try and CGI the stuff. And it's like, okay, so how much money do they... The question then becomes, well, how much money do they need to spend on computers to CGI the stuff? And if it's so obvious that it's CGI, why aren't they spending more money on these computers to to do the stuff? And it's like, what is your determinate? Is your reason for you thinking that it's CGI? And the most stupid one, right, is the Falcon, is the Tesla car in space, right? That is the most stupid. Oh, this is green screen. Oh, it's like, okay, that would be much easier to CGI, wouldn't it?
or well, to me, the one that I see that bugged me the most was them taking a single quote from one guy about, like, it's Photoshop and it has to be about one image.
Yep.
And then, you know, applying that to every single image and video that ever came, ever.
Yeah.
And
it'd be the same as me pointing to Liley, right? And saying, well, he lied about it, so everyone else is lying about the Earth being flat. Boom. The flat Earth is over, guys. Pack up your stuff. We're going home.
Yeah, one guy said one thing, and well, there it goes. That argument's done.
Yep. And so
yeah,
it also annoys me when people say, "Oh, well, Neil deGrasse Tyson says that it's flat," and it's like, okay, I'm not Neil deGrasse Tyson. Is Neil deGrasse Tyson in the room? I'd like to talk to. I'd like to talk to him, but I'm not Neil deGrasse Tyson. I don't see Neil deGrasse Tyson in the room. So, do you want to go bring that up with Neil deGrasse Tyson? I'm not Neil deGrasse Tyson, by the way. Thought I'd think I should make that very clear.
It's funny because I've only recently fallen into this flat Earth thing, mostly because very recently, well, not super recently, within the past couple of years, I've been teaching, been going to classes and teaching myself particle physics and general relativity. And what caught me was when people started to bring up general relativity, and somehow it intersected with flat Earth, and so that got me into looking at all this stuff. But wow, how can they make that argument? Like, they make this argument, Newton's wrong and Einstein is right, but it's like literally, if you look at what Einstein did, there's no way you can come to a flat Earth conclusion from that. Everything, like, general relativity literally says everything curves away from you hyperbolically.
Yeah.
In space-time. That's... There's no way around that. I mean, there's the whole left side of the equation, which is like r mu nu plus 1 or minus 1/2 g mu v r. That's Ricci tensor and Ricci curvature. Those are all parts of a Riemann curvature tensor. They literally describe curvature. They're literally about curvature. Yeah. That's what's happening on that side of the equation. It's curvature.
I think what they try and do is here's how they try and go about it, right? So it's very much a red herring. So what they do is they can't argue against things like Cavendish, right? Because Cavendish proves that gravity is a thing. So what happens is what they'll do is they'll say, well, Newton... so Cavendish supports the Newtonian idea of gravity, there being a force between two objects. However, Einstein came along and said that gravity was not a force. So therefore, Newton's wrong and Einstein is right. Now, can you prove that the whole curvature of space-time and time dilation is correct. And they say, well, have you... And whenever you bring up an experiment, they'll say, well, you haven't performed the experiment for yourself, so therefore you can't prove that Einsteinian gravity is correct. Essentially...
Well, they didn't come up with most of their arguments themselves. They got them off of YouTube videos, and they didn't do the experiments themselves for the most part. So, I mean, they're doing the same thing. They're just they're projecting.
Yeah.
I mean, like what gets me is when they say do your research, and it's like, do you guys even know what research is and how to research?
Yeah.
Who taught you how to research? What makes research work? Like, how do you know your research is good or your research is bad? How do you get an idea of that? I sort of like to go Socratic with one of these guys at some point. Just ask them, just ask them these questions, like, where do you come up with your ideas and how do you justify them?
Yeah, it's something that it's something that when I started researching flat Earth, so to speak, I never actually really believed that the Earth was flat because of two simple factors. First off, time zones, right? Second off, the sun goes below the horizon. Right, those two factors, if there were no time zones, then yes, I might have actually thought, wait, is the Earth flat? If the sun never actually went below the horizon, then yes, I might have thought, oh, is the Earth flat? But both of those things happen. So why is it that the sun goes above the horizon or goes below the horizon, yet when it's nighttime for me, it's sunny in Conspiracy Cats land, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, what's interesting... Go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna say, like, flat earthers will come up with arguments to try and explain that away, but it just shows they don't really have an understanding of how things work.
Yeah, and they don't even have, like, they're not relying on some sort of intellectual model of how things work. Like, the example I could come up with is you could go back to, say, Aristotle's physics, which I trotted through at one point when I was learning some of the classical stuff. And you look at how people look at the world before Newton came along, really before Galileo. And there's a certain kind of sense that it makes if you don't justify stuff with experiment.
Yeah.
The world was round. That was known. Like, before Aristophanes, right? That was in Aristotle's physics, that was down. But it was essentially the viewpoint of the universe was that the Earth was the center of the universe. It was round, but the Earth was sort of a shell around the center of the universe, and everywhere outside of the Earth was this sort of celestial sphere where there were these 7 wanderers, including the sun and the moon.
Yeah.
And stuff fell down because that was its nature. Its nature was to fall based on these sort of classical elements. And that worked as a justification if you didn't look into things too much. But one of the things it fails at is, for example, the argument is that stuff that weighs more is going to fall faster, and that's not true. And slowly and then you get this thing where you have to, if you look at the way that the wanderers work, you have to make up this whole weird epicycle thing in order to get everything to work right. And then Kepler figured out, you just make them ellipses. I mean, he used Tycho Brahe's like notes, but he figured out if you make things ellipses, it works a lot easier. And then Newton basically came along, used Galilean relativity, used Kepler's laws, and said, okay, I can justify this by making what seems at the time something of an absurd proposition, which is that something in orbit is doing the exact same thing as something that's falling down. And there's this gravity is the answer for both of these questions, and that changed the way that we look at physics as everything started to be, okay, let's demonstrate this and then make some math that explains it in a very precise way.
Yeah.
If you just follow those steps, then you can't miss that the Earth is round. It has to be. And all the stuff about, how rockets work and space and all that stuff, it just naturally comes out of just doing basic tests and doing basic observations of the universe. I mean, in some sense, I study, like I said, standard particle physics. I study general relativity. I have questions about the Big Bang model. I'm not a huge fan of inflation. This whole inflaton field, I don't like it too much. But I also kind of feel like there's no better argument out there.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, all right, well, that's there. But, I have issues with it, and it's not necessarily proven. And I certainly am not a string theory guy. So it's not like I'm buying into everything that's being thrown at me. But the stuff that is justified, particularly in experimentation, is very well justified. More justified than nearly anything else that we believe and understand. And one of the reasons that we know that is because I'm talking to you right now. You're in New Zealand, I'm in America.
Yeah.
And these devices work on quantum principles entirely.
Well, when it comes to some of the flat Earth ideas, let's take relative density, for example, right? So they say, relative density will cause things to cause some things to float, cause some things to float, and cause some things to sink in water, right? And will cause helium balloons to rise, and it will cause lead balloons to fall. And it's like, okay, so you've got to. What predictions can you make that we can't make with buoyancy? If I have gravity and buoyancy, I can make a lot of predictions, and I can actually make them far better with much more accuracy than they can.
Yeah, you would expect that buoyancy of two objects of, let's see, relatively the same density but different masses, they should fall at different rates. Whereas in gravity, they would fall at the same rate.
Yeah, and then, well, you do need to account for air resistance. So,
right, yeah. So two spheres, let's say. So you minimize air resistance, or darts or something, something that would minimize air resistance to make that measurement. But I mean, I think you could make that with like a ping pong ball filled with some stuff and a ball made of wood or something, and you can see how they fall differently in water than they do in air. They fall at the same time in air. In water, they would fall differently.
Yeah. Well, a good thing to sort of think about things is, so if you understand forces very well, you'll understand that if I have two balls of the exact same volume, right? One of them is one of them is slightly denser than the other, but both of them will float in water. So here's what you can do to test buoyancy. So you put them both, submerge them completely in water, right? And then once they're both at the same sort of depth, you let them go. One of them will reach the surface before the other. Now, they are experiencing the exact same amount of force, each of them. But one of them is actually rising faster due to it having less mass, which is due to Newton's calculations. So there's all kinds of things that you can do to make, to validate.
So they're experiencing the same buoyant force upwards, but the gravitational force is the same on them. Well, so I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Well,
so,
no, if you take the sort of F equals ma sort of thing, right? Because one of them has more mass, the buoyant. So you can also calculate. You can also reverse engineer the calculation to A equals F over m. So they're experiencing the same amount of force, but because there's a larger amount of mass in one, the one with the larger amount of mass actually moves slowly, even though it's experiencing the exact same amount of force upwards.
Right.
And
Yeah, so there's a buoyant force that's pushing up on them because basically the water is trying to go in underneath them, because it's trying to fill in that space, and the and that's going to be pushing up with the same force. But the gravitational force is the same on them, but their masses are different, so their inertias are going to be different.
yeah.
So one is going to have different inertia than the other, even though they're under the same gravitational force.
Yep. Although actually you were right when you said about the gravity would be stronger on the heavier one because gravity is proportional to mass, so it'd have slightly more gravity acting. It would have more gravity acting on it than the.
I mean, if you want to get really, really super technical, then in a pure Newtonian thing, like you have in the bowling ball and a feather, in a pure Newtonian physics perspective, if you have if you don't have any error bar, then actually the bowling ball hits the ground first because the bowling ball is attracting the Earth slightly more. Just barely more, but just slightly more. But that is negligible.
Yeah.
Compared, so it's never going to show up. But from a purely Newtonian perspective, but we won't ever see that in our measurements because the error on that is so incredibly tiny.
Yeah.
But of course, from relativity perspective, essentially, the bowling ball and the feather are both following geodesics such that their future is on the ground, and that's why they fall.
Yeah. I thought for a second there I actually misread what Flat Earth Aussie Jesus said, because he said the thermos prevents the transfer of heat by basically having an insulating layer between two walls, right? And I thought he said the Thanos prevents the transfer of heat.
Yeah, I have a vacuum thermos. I think that's what Flat Earth Aussie Jesus is talking about. I have one of those at work that keeps the coffee much hotter over the course of a day, and because there is that vacuum, then there's no convection, and there's no there's no convection, and there's no. I want to say condensation, but that's not right. But anyway, the only heat can go through radiation, so it's much less efficient process.
Yeah,
conduction. That's what I meant.
Yeah, conduction. Yeah, that's. Yeah, like I remember a bit of high school science. How you had to show which thing when you wrap the little mug in, when you wrap a mug that's got or wrap a beaker that's got hot water in it and see which one cools off the fastest. And you had to do control experiments because even if you had the one, just say you got a result which is what you expect, you still got to do it a couple more times to make sure that you get the same results. Because, you could get, if the paper insulates it best on the first time, it could be the wall that insulates it best on the second time.
The essence of science is repeatability after.
Yeah.
I'm looking at what Flat Earth Jesus is saying. Convergence formula says everything converges to the center. This sounds very, very Aristotelian to me. The ground isn't see-through, the air is, so things above ground level get obscured bottom first with distance always in the center. How come that only works on that whole, ground level bottom first thing only seems to happen on there was something about it only seems to happen on water and right?
Yeah, it's so the problem that they've got, right? And no flat earther has ever been able to explain this to me, right? So you've got ships going over the horizon. Okay, I could possibly accept that it's something to do with refraction. That's entirely plausible. but that would bend the light downwards, so it would make things appear higher. So we can't use refraction. Then they try and bring up angle of attack, right? And say, the bottom is getting obscured first. Well, actually, what you see is the ship's actually lowering. The angular size isn't changing much, but the ship is lowering. Explain that.
Yeah. It's actually slightly curving around, too, so it's slightly a different angle, just ever so slightly. But the other thing is, okay, if it's going bottom first, then that means if you stand on your head, should it be going top first then? Like, how does that angle of attack work if you just turn the camera upside down?
Yeah, it's they try all sorts of things. So they say the diffraction limit. So what they use is they use a brick, right? So they say if I have a brick at so far away, eventually you won't be able to resolve that brick. However, if you put 1,000 bricks on top of it, you will be able to resolve the 1,000 bricks. You just won't be able to resolve that one brick. And it's like, okay, I can accept that. The problem is that I can't resolve any other brick within that 1,000 bricks. However, I can resolve the entire thing of 1,000 bricks, right? So
is this like a line of bricks or like a wall?
A wall of bricks.
Okay. Yeah.
So even though I won't be able to resolve any single brick, I can still resolve the wall. So it shouldn't look as though it's disappearing bottom first. If let's say let's say this wall is appearing to go over the horizon, right? And I'm bang on 90 degrees I'm observing the wall bang on 90 degrees if it's a flat Earth, right? And so I'm perpendicular, I think it is. Well, I'm 90 degrees to the ground. The wall is 90 degrees to the ground. So if it's a flat Earth, there should be I should be bang on 90 degrees, and just say my eyesight is in line with the center of the wall, right? So if the wall is gone over, so if half of the wall, just say, is over the curve of the horizon, why can I still see half of it? Well, half of the wall, the bottom half of the wall has disappeared. I shouldn't say it gone over the curve of the horizon because that's assuming flat Earth, assuming globe Earth. But if I can see half of it, right? I can see the top half, but I can't see the bottom half. They both have the exact same angular size. So why is it that the bottom half is not visible, yet the top half is visible?
Well, so here's the interesting thing. So the flat Earth explanation is that the bottom, because of their math, the bottom disappears first in something that gets further away from you, which at that point you're essentially both arguments. If you just use that, then both the perspective argument of it's going over a surface of a globe, and the flat Earth argument of no, it disappears from the bottom up, they will give you the same results. So arguing about necessarily that particular observation isn't going to help. But take what they said about that bottom up, and then say, okay, well then how come the moon doesn't disappear from the bottom up? I mean, it's got to be further away than a ship, right? So why is it that something in the sky or a plane in the sky, I don't see only the top of the plane?
Yeah.
As it gets further and further away, I can still see the whole plane as it goes further and further away. It just gets smaller and smaller. So if we have the same, arguing about a particular observation that we both have an answer to seems counterproductive, because then you're just sort of arguing, throwing stuff on top of each other. But if we then say, okay, well, let's take your model and apply it to something else, does it still work? And clearly it doesn't.
I think what you've got to think of is things like light. So when you understand how light bends, right, you can understand that, yes, there will be refraction, but sometimes you'll get people like Nathan Oakley saying, so why don't we think of it for bending up, right? Or why don't we ever consider sinking instead of looming for refraction? It's like, well, generally over water, the the lower ear is more dense than the higher ear. So generally, you'd expect to see more looming effects than sinking effects.
I mean, and I check out when it gets to the optic stuff because that's just not my field, and I would feel uncomfortable making arguments about like looming and refraction because I really haven't studied enough to go into that depth. I mean, I believe what you're saying,
Yeah.
but I don't. If an argument ever comes that, I would, say, look, I can't argue that because I just don't have the information, and it would be dishonest and wrong, and like it would also be folly on my part to debate something that I don't really have a good understanding.
Yeah. So when it comes to when it comes to the things like I'm just trying to think. When it comes to things like light, I learned about light in high school. It's very easy to understand, right? At least to me, it's like some other people might not understand it. Flat Earthers certainly don't. But but the simple way to think of it is when light enters another medium or something that's denser at an angle at which part of the light would be in the denser medium and part of it would be in the less dense medium, then it will be bent towards the denser medium, which corresponds to the denser medium's index of refraction.
Right. Yes.
And
yeah, effectively, the speed of light changes in the material.
Yep. And so if you understand that, you understand how light bends, and it's very easy to work out calculations based on that.
Well, what I mean when I say to understand is spherical.
Oh,
all that kind of stuff that happens at the edge of the horizon. Like I just haven't gone into research that those kind of things. So I would feel like if that came up in some conversation I was having, I would have to kind of like say, well, I can't really argue on that point because it's not something that I've really looked into, but I can still make the perspective argument of you say things appear from as they get further away, they start to disappear from the bottom up. How come that only happens at a horizon and not anything else at any other level?
yeah.
What is making that happen at the horizon of the Earth and not anywhere else?
So one of the it's they basically need to use wizardry to try and explain it.
Yes.
Like,
well, because it's not reality, so they have to come up with some sort of magic.
yeah. So like some people say, oh, the stupidest argument that I've heard is the optics one. It's like, oh, have you well, how do you know that the image that you're getting is proper if you haven't checked the optics? And it's like, okay, how you got to ask them, how would the optics affect this image?
Yeah, and,
like if they can give you an answer of how the optics would affect this image, like I'm not disagreeing that the optics could affect the image. I'm just saying, like, do you know how the optics would affect this image? And sometimes, yes, the optics can affect certain images, like the resolution that you get can be affected by the optics and all that kind of stuff.
Or spherical aberration can happen in lenses and things like that, but that's a very specific thing that can be accounted for.
But when I'm showing an image, right, which shows something that's at the exact same height as the camera, and then beyond that there's a beyond that there's a mountain or something, right? Then shouldn't shouldn't the mountain appear to be taller than that? Especially seeing as it's right next to, in the image, it's right next to each other. You'd expect the pole or whatever is that's at the same height as the camera to be lower than the mountain. The top of the pole is at the same height as the camera. It should be lower than the mountain if it's on a flat Earth, but the mountain is actually lower. So, and especially like if the camera is a bit higher than the pole, then you definitely expect the top of the pole to be lower than the mountain. But when the mountain is actually lower than the top of the pole, then it brings into question, okay, why is that? You cannot use optics on that, because that's not a problem of optics. It is a problem of refraction. That's the only way that you can answer that.
Or curvature.
Or curvature. but when you're trying to argue for the flat Earth, refraction is the only way to explain that.
Right. And you can then use the other things around it to show that there isn't refraction happening.
Yeah.
Because refraction should happen to everything in that pole and whatever is around that pole.
Yeah.
It doesn't select the pole to light is not going to select the pole and say this selectively. I'm going to make this a different length. Because you're taking a picture of it.
Yeah. It's like flat earthers don't seem to understand all the concepts that we currently have that we can use. Like you can bounce radio waves off the moon. I have talked to people which have actually done that, have gone out and bounced radio waves off the moon, and lo and behold, since we know the speed of radio waves propagating through a vacuum, we can calculate, okay, the distance to the moon is this exact distance. So we can,
or Mars, we have rovers on Mars, and Mars changes its distance from us because we're on different orbits, and that and that changes. The one of Galileo's original ways that he really fell into the Copernican idea was observing the moons of Jupiter and seeing that they revolved around something else. He finally, he made the first modern, version of a modern telescope, and he could see the moons of Jupiter and saw that they were orbiting something else, which then made the whole Earth as a center that everything revolves around seem kind of quaint. And then later observations showed that as they were further away, scientists had measured how fast the moons travel around, and they would be able to predict it. But then as Jupiter got further away, those times were slightly off. And that was an example of starting to understand that, light doesn't come instantaneously. The reason why those times are slightly off is because the light is taking some time to get here.
Yeah.
And then really it was Maxwell who put the nail in the coffin and showed that if you formulate electromagnetism, you have to have this factor involving the permittivity and the permittivity of the vacuum, or else you're screwed.
But when it comes to modern technology, modern technology is built on all these ideas that we know about because of people that worked out that things like relativity. Your GPS is really accurate because of relativity. So, and sure, you might not be able to you might not have the know-how to do the same sort of experiments, but just because you don't have the know-how doesn't mean that they're wrong. It's just that you might be a little bit too stupid to understand it. Like, I know that I'm too stupid to understand some things that are out there, right?
No, you're not. No one's too stupid to understand anything. It just takes time and effort. Yeah, you have to have the effort and really want to learn it.
Yeah.
But I think it's like playing an instrument. It just takes practice, no matter what it is. So anyone is capable of understanding this stuff. You just have to want to understand it.
Yeah. Like since getting into Flat Earth, I understand physics a whole lot better, right? I understand because physics is a big part of when you're arguing against a flat earther. If you understand physics, then you understand things a whole lot better. So, when you are talking with a flat earther, and you bring up forces and how one force can affect another force and how forces work and stuff like that, then you can, when they say something stupid, you can go, okay, well, actually, like terminal velocity is a big one where forces are involved. So you can say, well, actually, terminal velocity isn't something because the Earth is flat. It's something because air resistance is equal to gravity. The resistance due to air resistance is equal to the acceleration due to gravity, which cancels each other out. And the reason why it happens at a certain speed is because air resistance is proportional to the density of the air around it. Is proportional to the aerodynamics of the object that it's resisting, and it's also proportional to the speed of the object that it's resisting, and it's something.
I mean, yeah, you can see this in skydivers. They can, if they lay themselves out, they're going to fall slower than if they turn themselves into like a nice line and drop quickly, because they have much less air resistance that way. And as there is a terminal velocity on objects based on their orientation, if they are not spherically symmetric. That is calculable because we understand. First of all, we understand what the air is. It's a fluid that that behaves in a way that we can model, and then we also understand that it gets more dense as you get closer to the ground, because it's amazing because they're saying, oh, air can't stand next to a vacuum is a thing, and it's like, well, the ocean has huge pressures there. How come they're not bursting out of the ocean to get into the much less pressure above?
Yeah,
because vacuums don't suck. That's not how they work.
Yeah, true. One of the things that I forgot to mention is that mass does have a role in air resistance, but it's more of So if you have two things, let's say you drop two things of different densities, right? But have the same that have the same shape, right? Then the denser one will actually reach a higher terminal velocity than the less dense one, because you need more resistance to equal out the forces due to gravity, which shows that gravity is proportional to the mass of the object.
Yeah, I mean it's. Is it part of the equation? I'd have to look at the equation for terminal velocity, but there's at least a G in there and a density.
Yeah, and technically, right? Cars. So even if we're not talking just about a downward force, right? Technically, cars have their own terminal velocity, and it's called how far you're putting your foot on the accelerator. And that's
well, I mean, they've had, like, I remember the Mythbusters did an episode where they put rocket engines on a car, and it can only get so far before the whole thing starts to tumble because it's just not aerodynamically stable.
Yeah.
And that's sort of why rockets are shaped like they are, because you have to pierce the atmosphere and torpedoes the same way. I mean, you have to think about fluid dynamics when you're designing these things.
Well, essentially, right, the way that I think about it is, if you're in a car, like just say you're in a Prius, right, and so you have essentially, if you've got your foot flat on the accelerator, you've probably got a top speed of 50 miles an hour. You know, and
I think a Prius get higher than that.
I'll ask Sammy. I believe she's got a Prius, and I don't think she can go any faster than 50 miles an hour. But so if you've got your foot hard down on the accelerator, there's a certain speed that you'll reach. That doesn't mean that this car's still not trying to accelerate, right? So
Yes, it has to be accelerating because otherwise it would slow down the drag.
yep.
So the acceleration is what's keeping it at the speed.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, the other forces on it would slow it down.
Yeah, and that's where technically it's experiencing its own sideways terminal velocity. You could call it, where the forces that are, so when it gets up to 50 mile an hour, its top speed, the forces resisting it, right, are exactly the same as the forces that you're putting into it to keep it maintaining that 50 mile an hour speed.
I see what you're saying. That's a cool idea. I wouldn't call it terminal velocity because that could confuse things, but it's a good analogy for terminal velocity.
Yeah.
Because it's roughly the same idea, which is that there's a certain maximum velocity vector you can achieve based on the conditions, and that can't be exceeded.
Because if you were to just keep on applying a force to it, right, and there was no resistance, you'd just get faster and faster and faster and faster and faster.
You just keep accelerating.
Yeah.
It should be noted there's a difference between acceleration and speed, which can sometimes be subtle, but it's like I see that Flat Earth Aussie Jesus, who said he had to go, but still I don't know why he doesn't come into chat because he's still chatting away.
Yeah.
He mentioned something about speed, and speed is all relative. I mean, there's some reference frame where I'm going nearly the speed of light compared to what's in that reference frame, but that doesn't mean that right here I'm moving at the speed of light. I am accelerating in terms of relativity towards the ground right now onto my chair. I'm being accelerated, and that's why I feel the chair pushing up at me.
Yeah.
But
well, the thing is, Flat Earth Aussie Jesus kind of understands reference frames. If you ask him a question about, if you ask him a basic question, he'll actually be able to answer it. So, for example, he got both questions right about on a physics test, right, about reference frames. He just has a hard time applying that to a larger thing. So he'll so when it comes to an observer on train, so train A is traveling at a speed of 150 kilometers per hour. Train B is traveling in the other direction at a speed of 80 kilometers an hour. To an observer on train A, how fast is train B going, right? So
80 plus 150.
Yeah. And that's 230. He actually got the exact number right, 230 kilometers per hour. And so it's it's something that you can.
But that same observer who's watching somebody on throwing a ball up would see that ball moving at 230 miles an hour, but the person who was on the train would see the ball being stationary.
Yeah.
And therein lies the equivalence principle, and that literally is all you need to understand special relativity. That observation gets you to Galilean relativity. There's an observation that gets you to special relativity, which is that light is measured at moving the same speed no matter which perspective you're at.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that has to be added, tacked on to that.
So
And that happened because when people tried to work out how electromagnetism worked for moving things, it just became way too complicated until you took this sort of thing into account.
So when it comes to, like, he's saying, Flat Earthology Jesus is saying things like, how come air is still if the planet is moving 2.2 million miles an hour in 4 different directions? Well, first off, air is the air is not still. It's constantly moving, and there's this thing called the Coriolis effect, which because it's moving at different because it's moving into a different frame of reference, so to speak. It actually has different speeds, and that's
Well, the answer to that is I would say, how come your coffee when you're driving doesn't start splashing around like crazy if you're going at constant speed? That's the same reason. It's because what you're talking about is that you're talking about the speed relative to something else, but everything, if it's not accelerating, considers itself stationary, or it's the laws of physics work as if something is stationary if it's not accelerating.
yeah.
So that is why, regardless of how fast something else is moving relative to us, everything seems to be stationary from its frame of reference. But we can tell that certain things that we're not, because the thing is, like, things like rotation, that is not something that can be. I mean, we can measure that we are rotating because of things like Foucault's pendulum and sort of those things. That can't be taken out of the relative equation.
Yeah. It's yeah. It's something that we can measure time and time again, and as whenever someone brings up rotation, I always thank Bob.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's easy to go to that clip of Bob, but I mean, most people don't know how how an interferometer works, which is essentially what a quote unquote ring laser gyroscope, which I had never heard of until I saw that clip. But I mean, it's essentially an interferometer, and people don't know how that works. So when you say ring laser gyroscope, people tend to sort of tune out.
Yeah.
That's why I like going to the Foucault's pendulum, because a pendulum is something that you could build and do it yourself.
Yeah.
Like you can run this test yourself, and it will show you what the globe Earth conspiracy people are telling you to do. And here's the thing: maybe you think then that the globe Earth conspiracy has influenced your experiment. in the Feynman lectures on physics, Feynman quoted Poincaré, and he said, if something is a complete conspiracy, like every time you try to do it, it's as if there's a conspiracy, as if there is a conspiracy to change something every time you try to measure it. A complete conspiracy is in fact a law of nature. The reason why the pendulum experiment is a complete conspiracy is because we are rotating.
Yeah, I guess so. So yeah, I'm gonna end up this stream real soon. But for those of you who don't know, so yeah, I have been working on this video game. I'm wondering actually how many things I can get. Conspiracy. I don't know how many characters Conspiracy Cat's name is.
You got a space comma in there, so there's something.
Yeah, I'll just call them Conspiracy Space Comma. And yeah, so as of
Conspiracy cat.
So yeah, because when it comes to this game, I am working on it. You can download this current version that I'm playing right now is available on Discord in my server. Link is in the description. And especially if you're a person who likes video games, I'm going to be updating I'll probably try and update the alpha version as soon as I can. This is currently pre-demo. And when the demo is finished, it will be going on Game Jolt. Because it'll probably be, at that point, when the demo is finished, it'll probably be too large to put on Discord. Because Discord has an 8 megabyte limit. And I've had people saying that it's smooth, so it must be something. I must have done something right, you know?
Yeah, good for you, man. And like I said, I have no relation to this guy, but other than I find his stuff interesting. But I would, if you get a chance, look for the Escapist Yahtzee's Dev Diary, and he's talking. I mean, because it seems like you're definitely interested in game design.
Yeah.
And this is there's a lot of interesting stuff about game design. He's talking about very cool things to me as someone who is not in that field, but is interested in it.
Like I recently got into what's his name? This Sean guy, who, funnily enough, I actually followed him on Twitter recently to try and get a copy of Game Maker Studio 2. Would save me quite a bit of money. And funnily enough,
I'm pretty sure Yahtzee's using Game Maker Studio, by the way.
Yeah. So funnily enough, I checked his account out I checked his Twitter account out, and apparently he's following. I was thinking he sounds a lot like Sean Jin, right? I don't know if you've heard of that guy. He's another YouTuber. So
there's too many YouTubers out there. Like, you haven't heard of Yahtzee, I haven't heard of these guys.
Yeah,
too many.
So when it came to Sean Jin, right? When it came to this Sean guy, Sean Spalding, I think it is his name. And he's following Sean Jin, and he sounds a lot like Sean Jin. I actually thought, wait, does Sean Jin have a second channel where he talks about video game design and Game Maker? And funnily enough, I mean, it could be a conspiracy that they're the exact same person because they sound so similar. They've got the same name, you know.
Okay, here's a question I have for you before you go.
Yeah.
Your name on screen looks like it's in kanji. I'm guessing it's kanji for Planarwalk, or I guess in Japanese it'd be Planarwalku.
So it actually says Nikorasu.
Okay. Oh, Nick. Okay, sure. Yeah, no, I have a friend of mine who lived in Japan for a bunch of years. He went to teach English there, and so I got to go to Japan a couple times. I'm not like a huge Japan guy, but it was always fun to go to a totally different place with a totally different culture that at the same time is very modern. So you have all the modern amenities, but the culture is radically different.
Yeah. So Mandelbrot set pointed out that it's not kanji. It's actually katakana.
Well, yeah, shows what I know.
Omae wa mo shinderu.
It looks Japanese to me, but that was all I could tell.
Yeah, So yeah, when it comes to this game, as I said, I welcome anybody at this point. I welcome anybody downloading it, giving me feedback, because the more feedback I get, right, the better it will be. I can understand people not wanting to ruin the experience for themselves, but you know, it's one of those things where this could take a while to develop.
I think there should be more, like there should be health potions and stuff like that, so you can heal yourself.
Well, there is. I just bought a health potion from the shop. I've got to properly design the UI for the shops. The current one that I've got is just a standard UI. You'll be able to buy this thing called merch from the shop. Because it's an inside joke with me and a friend of mine, with a previous game that I helped a little bit.
Okay, here's a serious suggestion. Because I see that you're fighting something right now that has a sort of globe thing on the thing. I think that because you're fighting against the globers, every enemy should have some sort of globe theme to it. Those missiles should have a globe decal on them. Everything should have some sort of globe shape on them. Everything everything that's fighting you should have something that ties them into the globe conspiracy.
Yeah, sometimes it is difficult to sort of figure out something. Okay, this is going to be.
That looks way too hard.
What do you mean? Like this area here?
Yes. Never been a bullet hell guy.
Well, you see, it's actually you meant to just try and. So you can try and kill everything in that, but it's difficult. It's not. That's not the way that you're meant to do it. You're not meant to try and kill everything here, because those plasma towers up the top there, they basically shoot at you until you. Yeah, they basically constantly shooting at you until they can kill you.
Are those encounters random?
Yes, they're partially random, partially controlled. So
it's interesting that you're running around in a defined space with enemies in that space, but then you also have random encounters. I wonder if it might be more cohesive in the game if the encounters were patrolling around the area where you would fight them.
So
you like if there was where you are standing right now, if there was a guy moving there, and when you went in, it turned into sort of a fight thing.
Yeah.
So all fighting occurred in one sort of area of the game.
So one thing that I am going to have, right? So I am going to have some encounters like that, but the reason why I've got this kind of thing with the chemtrails is because there's actually going to be places where you'll run around, and that's not really suited to platformer combat because of the way. I'm going to try and have some more 3D-ish spaces rather than 2D-ish spaces. So when it comes to the platformer combat, that's a very 2D space. When it comes to the combat that I'm going to have, that's going to be a lot more of a 3D space.
I like that. I think that's cool, but I think that it would be best for the game if, from my perspective, I mean, your developing the game is your game. From my perspective, it seems like it'd be best to keep those areas separate. So while you're running in one of these mazes or one of these platformer levels, the only fighting you do is the platformer fighting. But then as you're in those more open spaces, then you get the random encounters.
Yeah. So the random encounters are actually set to particular spaces within the platformer areas. So when I'm here, when you see, when it comes up on screen, you should see it right now, that there is no when I'm here, there is no way that I'm going to enter a random encounter. Absolutely zero chance that I can enter a random encounter. When I'm here, however, then there's chances of entering a random encounter, and the sort of fog, which is also known as the chemtrails, that is that's a visual indication of random encounters possibly happening. And I have gotten a bit of feedback on that. So a few people, at first it was a little bit too intrusive, so I dialed the opacity back, and now I've got this thing, and I also had to make it move so that it didn't look too static as well.
I mean, I like the idea that you're in a zone, get random encounters with the fog. And again, I'm not a game designer or anything, so take anything I say with a grain of salt, absolutely. But it seems to me like that if you separate out the platformer from the key, if you keep those same methods of combat, but you sort of have different zones where you do different things, and you have more of a, this is a platform where I get to do this stuff, and then this is a world explorer situation where I get to do this stuff, and then the whole thing feels more cohesive instead of feeling all sort of jumbled together and being like, I don't know what's going to happen at any moment.
Well, the thing that I've created a previous game, right? And the problem that I had with it, with having the two separated, was that there would be people that would like one sort but not the other. So
that's inevitable, I think.
Yeah.
That's sort of what you're designing for in some sense is.
Yeah, so
for the people who like one, they're playing through the other to get to the thing who like number one, and the people who like number two are playing through number one to get to number two, because you can't please everybody all the time.
So the problem that I've got when it comes to this thing is you could create it all one genre, right? I could have created it all turn-based RPG, and that would definitely be a lot. That would definitely probably be a whole lot simpler on my part, but I don't think it would be as fun if it was just all turn-based RPG. And so the problem that you can get is if you have it more zoned off than what it currently is, you have people that will play it, and there's parts that they don't like will feel like a chore. Whereas if it's more intermittent, like I've got it now, so you can end up in a random encounter at any time. So that means that I can have a far better pacing, so it's much more balanced, rather than there's this long part of turn-based that I don't like, and there's this long part of platformer that I don't like, because even though I enjoy the platformer, there are people that absolutely hate the platformer, and there are people that absolutely hate the turn-based RPGs, but when you've got it kind of spaced out between each section, and that's why I do it that way.
Well, I think that maybe that would be then like the end game has a combination of both, or the latter part of the game, but you start the game where they're separated and they slowly then come together, where the platformer can be interrupted by the world, or the world can be interrupted by a platform. And so you start by training the player into different modes, and then slowly they come together. That way the player doesn't, if they're at the point where they're further in the game, they're invested anyway, so they're going to keep playing. But if they get to the point where they dislike one or the other, they can at least move past that point and get to the part that they like.
Yeah. So one person did say I prefer way more the platformer and hate the turn-based RPG. So I am going to make the turn-based RPG far more entertaining. And I've had this idea for ages, and no, I didn't steal it from Paper Mario, but I did realize that it's an idea that Paper Mario has. So, but Paper Mario hasn't really expanded on it as much as I plan to expand on it. So,
have you heard the quote, lesser artists borrow, great artists steal? It's a good quote.
So
lesser artists borrow, great artists steal.
Okay. Well,
so I mean, look, everyone's done everything before.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with taking something you've seen in another game and putting it into your game, especially if you can put your own spin on it.
Yeah. So essentially, when it comes to your actions and the turn-based sense, there's going to be a thing called flat out, right? The flat out ability is every character will have their own flat out ability. So the flat out ability will be things like yeah, so I just saw blood I don't know how to pronounce it, but yeah, as long as it has a good ideas, yeah. So like I enjoyed Undertale's bullet hell, and for this game, I don't want to make it too hard, and that's one problem that I'm probably going to fall into. It's probably going to be too hard at some points, but I want to make it, at the very least, you can get through it. There will be other things that you can do that will go off to the side. So for this game, I have a few ideas, right? So the first idea is there'll be times when you've got to go between turn-based RPG and platformer, and the turn-based RPG will kind of act as a balance to because the platformer will definitely be far more fast-paced, right? Whereas the turn-based RPG, you'll be able to take your time and take a breath, and then once you've completed that, go back to the fast-paced platformer. And so it will be a switch between the two, and I'm going to try and make it as seamless as possible.
That's cool. I mean, I like that because, like, I'm thinking, like, if I was, let's say I was playing Mario and I got to the end of the level, but randomly I got into an encounter and I lost all my health, that would bug me because I just got right to the end of the level, but then I hit a random encounter that made me lose my health.
Yeah.
So it's like that thing I think would compound unless it was like I said, like the end game. So that's when everything is kind of mushed together and you get that combined experience of everything you've learned up to that point.
Yeah, and there's definitely a few mechanics that I'm going to fix up. Like, for example, I might have technically there it shouldn't, and I haven't implemented it, but right there it shouldn't really go into a random encounter because you've still got enemies that are trying to attack you in platformer. But there will be sometimes in platformer where you'll have to flick a switch, and then you'll come up because you flicked a switch, you'll face 3 enemies, right?
Yeah. Well, I've given you a whole bunch to think about, and you're still in the process of making this game,
yeah.
So I don't want to, I don't want to be like too much. Oh, this is bad. This is bad. This is bad. Like,
yeah, I get what you mean.
Just
take consideration
it's your game, play how you want it. Yeah.
You because essentially, if I make a game that no one wants to play, then no one wants to play it.
The most important thing is that you want to play your game. Like if you want to play your game, then
yeah,
that is very indicative that other people want to play your game. If you are bored by your game, that's very indicative that other people by your game.
Yeah.
So make the game that interests you, and you will be much more likely to find that other people like it as well.
Yeah. Like the way one person talked about RNG elements, and here's the thing that I hate, right? In video games, I hate RNG drops, right? So what I want to, I do like RNG, right? I do like RNG for particularly amounts. So if a drop or a particular rate of drops. So, but I don't like it too much in. So I don't like things being too RNG. So if you've got a 1% chance of getting a particular weapon from a particular battle, then fuck that, right? Unless
it's like the super weapon that can do anything, then it's somewhat justified.
Well, even then, I think if there's a super weapon that can do anything, I think it's better to hide it in an extremely challenging battle and then have it guaranteed.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I can see both methods as being like valuable and valid, being that someone wants to do they want to do either one or the other, giving them that option of this really tough encounter will give you a super powerful weapon, but also this incredibly random, unlikely thing will give you a slightly different weapon that has different effects. This is like going back to me thinking about like fantasy and like where you could. And you only did this at like the end game when you pretty much done and you had already beaten the game, but you wanted to get your guy more and more powerful. Yeah. Because this wasn't necessary to win the game. This was extra stuff that you could do because you thought it was cool.
Yeah.
And that's sort of I think the model for those sorts of things is you end up doing this sort of, in some sense, sort of aspirational content just because you like the game and you're having a lot of, because you need to do it to succeed.
Yeah, so Blutsaw said something about RNG makes for grindfest, and that's why I avoid As the Plague. And that's the thing that I'm going to try and avoid at all costs, right? So take Unescapable, for example. You can actually... There's only one time where you really need to grind, right? And that's because I am planning to have whole lot more between between the two places that you travel. And so when it comes to the grinding part of that, it's it's not too much grinding. Some people have done a bit of grinding, but I've also got a mechanic which means that if you die, you keep everything that you've obtained from grinding, right? So, kind of like in Dark Souls, how you can go back and get your souls, except this one, you don't need to go back and get your souls. So, when it comes to Unescapable, it's a case of when you die, you keep all your stuff, but I try and make it so that even if you go around from place to place, then you can still actually beat it without any grinding. People find it it's difficult to beat it without any grinding,
right?
But it is possible, especially, and that's where if you see the enemies' attack patterns, then yeah. And Bloodsaw had a good point. How about make it a guaranteed drop after an X number of kills? And that's another thing that I could do. In fact, there's a mechanic in this game which Unescapable didn't have, and it's called the I call it the encounter prevention mechanic, or the constant encounter prevention mechanic. So you've essentially got to go 100 frames, right? Or is it 50 frames? I think it might be 50 frames. Without an account, you've got to. There's a minimum of 50 frames before you can get another encounter, right?
That's good, yeah, because otherwise because if you just leave it up to random chance, then random chance means that you're going to have streaks of things where things happen one after the other. Yeah.
And that's one of the problems that Unescapable had, because every time you went to a different tile on the grid, you had a chance of a random encounter. So you'd go one tile over and you'd get a random encounter after just being in a random encounter, and people got annoyed at that. So spacing it out, I am learning from my past games and going, okay, this is what I need to do, and this is how I solve the problem. And it's all down to problem solving,
Mm-hmm. I mean, I program for a living, so totally different field. But yeah, it's analysis and problem solving.
And also, in this game there are far smoother mechanics than Unescapable. Things that I didn't even consider for Unescapable, right? Like the jumping mechanic of.
I like your sprites. I mean, I'll say that. I really like your sprites. They're cool, and they have a nice fluidity to them.
I don't know if Sammy's still here, or if she can still hear, or if she can still hear us, but she's the one to thank for that.
Well, I mean, awesome job.
Yeah, so when it comes to the jumping mechanic, that was the most difficult mechanic to program, right? Because it actually has. First off, there's this thing that stops it from essentially feeling jagged when you hit a roof, right? Because it's very hard to stop it from feeling jagged, and there's the risk of it feeling too floaty. Then the second thing with the jumping is it's got a bit of prediction to where it's going to land, right? If it thinks it's going to land shortly after it's finished jumping, it will actually continue the jump animation and not transition to the fall animation. And that's another thing that I've had to do, and I've had to stop it from roof jumping, so that when you're going along, so that you can't use the roof to jump across a pit of spikes or lava or whatever. But there's a whole lot that I've still got to add in,
Yep, that's really cool. And I'll tell you what, I'll put a in Discord to that Yahtzee thing I was talking about, and you can view that if you want to.
Okay.
And if not, I mean, fine. But I'll let you go because I don't want to take up too much of your time. Because hey, you got a lot of game development to do.
Yeah. So, as I've said, join everyone in the chat. Join my Discord. Download the game. It's currently only playable on. It's currently only playable on Windows. Give feedback. Any feedback will be appreciated. Sometimes there are technical aspects to creating a certain to a certain part, like the it's very hard to get animations done. So that's why when creating the turn-based thing, the turn-based side is less animated than the platformer side, because the platformer side heavily relies on animations, whereas the turn-based stuff doesn't so much rely on animations, and the animations for the turn-based stuff I can do myself. So, but even if you have a suggestion even if you've got a suggestion that I should do, right? Just say you've got a suggestion of, oh, this is a way to that you can improve it, and if it's a really simple thing that I've missed, I'll implement it. Because, I want this to be as good as possible. So
Awesome, man.
So with that, as I said, join my Discord. Also, it helps if you... we haven't gotten any more Super Chats, so no more Super Chats to read out. So if you appreciate what I do, supporting me on Patreon is a really good way to do it. I've also got a Streamlabs set up. Also, if you want to watch me play games sometimes, there's also... twitch.tv /Planarwalk. I'll put a link in the chat. Let me just see if I can. Oh, there we go. Twitch.tv /Planarwalk. I've got 8 followers. Nice. So yeah, if you want to follow me on there, I can. Then I can get affiliate and have more people watching and when I play games. So, in that spirit, leave a like and subscribe if you like that stream. Leave a comment letting me know what you'd like to see when it comes to Unescapable. Not Unescapable, to Flerfia. And between you and me, thank you for watching. I'm just going to try and get into a battle so that the battle music plays. There we go.
Awesome. Well, that was cool, man.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you later.
All right. Yeah, Flare Earth, Jesus, you need to petition the Australian government to get better internet. Your internet over there sucks. Like, seriously. When it takes, like... When it takes half an hour to watch like a 5-minute porn video, you got shit internet. It wasn't even in a great amount of quality either.